Cubs win, Cubs win, Cubs win. So this series that starts out between Chris Stanley's Northsiders and the Cleveland Indians, you would think 1-1. Oh, that's fun. 2 games tied up. No, one is a beatdown in one direction. The next game is a beatdown in the other direction. It's almost like we saw 2 bad games back to back. Hey, this is the Bennington Show. I'm Ron Bennington. There's Gail Bennington.
Yo.
And I'm Ron Bennington. So, Chris, you got to feel better going back 1-1 now.
I'm feeling great going back to Wrigley tied up. I told everyone, no need to panic. Everything's fine. Going back to the north side, we got this.
Thanks for making it about you. It's not about the players or the people who are actually involved. It's because you said something yesterday that should now be the highlight. Coming up in just a couple of moments, we're going to do this throughout the show today. We've got some passes to give away free. Now, you got to be in the Los Angeles area Saturday, October 29th at the Shrine in Los Angeles. Gail, listen to this lineup. Flight of the Conchords, Weird Al, Patton Oswalt, Sarah Silverman, Fred Armisen, and Will Forte. The music of Wet Hot American Summer, Eric Andre, Tim Heidecker. That's Festival Supreme tickets, and we got them.
What?
That is amazing.
Oh, my God.
What's the official read on that, Chris? I want to do the official read properly. If you're going to be in that area, we'll give out some tickets throughout the day. Give us a call now at 844-ROCK-GOD, 844-ROCK-GOD. But this festival is absolutely amazing.
I cannot believe that line. I wish so much that I could go to that.
You're on the wrong coast again. The wrong coast again.
That's Festival Supreme, presented by Golden Voice.
Take your time. That's
Festival Supreme, presented by Golden Voice and Tenacious D. Go get tickets at festivalsupreme.com.
What a lineup, though. Flight of the Conchords, amazing act. Weird Al. I've had him on the show a couple of times. I've never seen people react to anybody the way they react to Weird Al. Patton Oswalt getting back out there, slugging it out in comedy. Sarah Silverman, Fred Armisen, Will Forte, the music of Wet Hot American Summer, Eric Andre, and maybe Gail's favorite of all time, Tim Heidecker.
That is like a terrific lineup.
You've got to be able to get to the Shrine in Los Angeles October 29th. October 29th, the Shrine in Los Angeles. We've got some passes to give out to that. So give us a call at 844-ROCK-GOD, 844-ROCK-GOD. It's going to be a fantastic show.
I wonder what the music of Wet Hot American Summer, is that the new stuff that they did for the last season? That shit is so
who's playing
hilarious.
that music?
They have a band that's going around playing the Wet Hot
that's going around playing?
Well, they're going to be at Festival Supreme.
That's what we're talking about. So they come out and they play those songs.
Yeah. Higher and Higher.
Love that song.
That song's
higher
amazing.
and higher.
Love it. I love that song.
And to see Patton back on stage has got to be pretty amazing. Sarah Silverman always destroys. Fred Armisen and Will Forte, that's 2 of the funniest yet strangest people known to man.
And the beloved Eric Andre, who I think is just like the millennial sensation. It's like what all the youngsters like.
All the young dudes, they say.
Yeah.
All the young dudes.
I hope Tim Heidecker performs I Am a Cuck.
Don't nod at me. Just give me the number of. Okay, so that would be it, right? No. There's already one that Chris should have told you about. All right, so it's the Bennington Show. He was giving me this, and we might already be there. So that's why I need you to... Why don't you jump up and run over there?
Okay.
Thank you. I should have put you in. It's the Bennington Show. So much stuff going on. We still got Thanksgiving coming up. And, Gail, the second act is going to be your baby tonight.
This is going to be my sweet baby. Well, I finally get to put on my producer's shoes.
Yeah, well, you're already going out and doing gigs now. And I feel like I'm pretty much left behind in everything. I'm just Unmasked Boy is my new nickname.
And that's a good thing to be.
I didn't think so. I think it was the boy part that annoyed me a little bit.
I think that it's perfect for Halloween. It's all mask related. Spooky.
I didn't even think of that. You keep going. We're plugging Thanksgiving.
It is the Bennington family Thanksgiving, and it's happening Monday, November 14th at 7 p.m. at the Hard Rock Cafe in New York City. You can go to theinterrobang.com for a chance at free tickets, but you can also email benningtongigs@gmail.com.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, me too.
Are we keeping an eye so they're both together, that we know what we're doing there?
Yes, we are.
Okay, both sides?
Both sides are together.
Does the left hand know what the right hand is doing?
At all times.
That would literally should be on, that will be the biography I write. That's the left hand. Know what the right hand is doing. I don't know if you guys were watching TV this morning, but Donald Trump and the lovely Melania were together, and then he goes, "Oh, she's been great. She's going to give 2 or 3 more like really important speeches in the next 3 weeks," and you just saw a face that she heard it for the first time.
Oh no!
And she was talking about, is her son Barron? Is that the little one?
Barron, yeah.
She was like, I just want to be there for Barron. If he needs anything, I want to be there to get it for him. I really don't like going around giving a bunch of speeches to people.
Oh my God. Yeah, I guess I am doing a bunch of speeches.
This would be like...
Thanks, Donald.
Yeah. I was actually thinking like when I was watching, like if my chick said, everything's so busy, Ron will be delivering 2 or 3 babies himself. Because that's not going to happen. I will put a foot there to keep that baby from coming out until somebody can come and do it properly.
I'm not ready for this.
I don't want to see a coat around the neck.
I know, that's a trigger for you.
Careful with that. All right, so the Thanksgiving Day we're all looking forward to. There's just so much shit going on right now. All right, here's a bit of comedy news that it's like every once in a while you'll hear of a casting that sounds perfect. The new Fargo season, Jim Gaffigan will be a part of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is that amazing?
God. Like, yeah, I can already see him. I mean, he's a cop, right? I mean,
he's got to be the cop who eats too many donuts, who finds himself in a really bad murder scene.
Because you see, I was already assuming that was his role, and I was like, wait, I mean, that's what he's doing. Look, I can see him in the uniform.
There was an independent film that was like a post 9/11 thing, right? Where we're just shown that, and it was like, Jim was a guy, I think he was going to a therapist, and he was acting like, no, everything's great. But he had this fucking dark thing that even he didn't know himself. You know what I mean? Like this dark, vicious anger underneath it all. And it's the way that I think about most nice guy comedians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like most of them are just holding back something that is just so fucking terrifying. It's their job to keep it down.
I think it would be the expectation of everyone meeting you and assuming that you seem like a nice guy, so you're always a nice guy. I think the pressure of that...
It's got to be unbelievable. You know what I mean? But I believe that every Jim Gaffigan, every Brian Regan has their inner Norton that they're trying to hold down.
Well, I was thinking specifically Brian Regan. I'm sure that everybody, you know, kind of approaches him like, I'm sure he's fine with me coming up to him and asking him a bunch of questions and taking up his time. He's a nice guy.
He is, though. He is exactly the type of guy who would be leaving his sold-out show, saw somebody with a flat tire and pull over and help them. He does. He is that kind of guy. And yet, I think that a guy like Brian or Gaffigan would be more comfortable hanging out with a Dice, you know, a Norton, any of the tough crowd guys, because that's their people.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times they think that Jim Gaffigan wouldn't laugh at those comedians, and he loves them. Brian Regan loves those kind of comedians because he's also on that wavelength. But like Chris Gethard, they have decided, you know what I mean? Hey, I'm in a society. I'm going to, you know, behave and thinking of everyone. And yet, I think Mr. Bruce Springsteen put it perfectly. There's a darkness on the edge of town. I don't think Bruce said it the way I did, you know.
Right.
But there is a fucking darkness on the edge of town.
And by town, he means Reagan and Gaffigan.
Yes, that's the towns. So anyway, this is the best casting I've ever heard in my life. And do you know what the name of that 9/11 movies? Did you guys run to look it up? The 9/11 Gaffigan movies, because it's an independent film. Must have come out like 2005 or earlier.
Happiness?
Might be called Happiness. Who else is in it?
I was off the top of my head.
No, Happiness is the Todd Solondz one, right?
Yeah, like
he's not in that. Well, instead of off the top of your head, use that. I call them computer boxes.
The Great New Wonderful.
Is that it? That's the name of it? That doesn't seem right to me.
I'm not sure what it is. I don't think I've ever.
Who else is in it? Is there like a 9/11 vibe to it?
Olympia Dukakis, Judy Greer, Maggie Gyllenhaal.
I think that's it. Yeah, she's looking out the window of like, you know, Ground Zero and stuff. It was really, and I saw it when it was all too even heavy with me.
Yeah.
You know, but I remember for a couple years in New York, just people just walking around carrying this thing.
I have never seen a 9/11 movie. Not one that has come out. Not the one about, you know, the day of. Not the, what was it, loud and very close or whatever, incredibly loud. I have not seen one. I don't, even this many years later.
What about the one that Spike Lee did that wasn't necessarily a 9/11 movie, but was 9/11 was in the background? That was...
No, I didn't see that one.
See, any of the films that were shot at that time had to reference the fact that this is going on, even if they weren't 9/11 movies.
Right.
We shoot a lot of stuff in New York. I personally have shot 16 different movies.
You have?
Well, home movies, but still they're good.
Ask me to help out sometime. I'll PA.
Well, I wanted you to, but then I found out you were doing this thing with Voss and Bonnie that only some of us were invited to.
Well, I thought you would be excited about it. It's the Would You Bang Him? It's Would You Bang Him presented by My Wife Hates Me, happening Wednesday, November 2nd at 10 p.m. At the Village Underground. Me, Bonnie McFarlane, Karen Feehan, Aaron Berg. There's a ton of people on it.
Now, here's what I want to ask you, Vito. And you can tell me. Would it be better for Gail if I was there to, hey, support? Good. Or is it weird to have your dad there when you would say whether someone is bangable or not?
Let's take a vote.
Particularly when some of the bangable people are buddies of his. See, I'm finding that to be strange. I'm wondering, like, I could be there like, oh, great joke, Gail. But what I think, oh, I know Aaron Berg pretty good, and I think that crosses a line.
He's newlywed.
I've never been more happy to know that Louis J. Gomez was not in a show. By the way, remember...
Answer is yes.
Remember when yesterday I think I gave Big J saying that the Mashable was his show?
Mashup,
yeah. Mashable is a website.
Great one. Great website.
I was told that it is not. It's Louis J. Gomez's show.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. I only know because the only times I've ever done these things, Jay invites me.
I swore that it was a big J joint.
It's
a Christine joint, really.
Well, it is a Christine joint, as always, like everything. But I believe that it just seems similar to me to be What's Your Fucking Deal, because I've only done it with Jay, and it becomes What's Your Fucking Deal when you're with Jay. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of... Now, do you guys remember Vine?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
6 seconds.
6 seconds. Isn't that what we did your thing on? Were you on Vine or you were on something else?
I was the Vine reporter, yeah.
Yeah.
You were the Vine reporter. Well, take off your hat, Chris, and everyone bow their heads. Vine is dead. Vine has been discontinued, and the Vine reporter is no more.
Rest in piss, Vine reporter.
That's
so mean.
But can I tell you, it's a dumb reference from a guy in England 8 years ago who was arrested for writing rest in piss to widows. He would find people who just lost somebody, and he would write, like, may your loved one rest in piss.
That's not funny.
Now, here in America, what I call a troll town, that is acceptable under First Amendment. In England, in the country of, look how nice Washington looks with the leaves just starting to change there.
Pretty.
It's crazy how close everything is in Washington. But anyway, in England, they'll come and arrest you for being racist and misogynistic and...
Like hate speech is...
That's the word I'm looking for.
Is punishable.
It's punishable by death.
Oh,
you will
my
be
goodness.
drawn and quartered.
They're old school.
Well, they literally are old school. I mean, they started it all. Big up to England. I have something... I'm not even going to bring it up on the air, what I have. I kind of feel like I have something so valuable, I probably shouldn't even send it.
I was in such shock when you received the thing you received.
I will just say what it is. These are Mitch Hedberg's notebooks, his personal notebooks, which I was asked to go through and check out, and I couldn't be more honored.
Yeah. I mean, it was so incredible, just this stack of his handwritten notebooks, old photographs. It's just incredible.
This is what amazes me about it. Like, that's something that Mitch wrote to Mitch. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't expect anyone to see your notebooks.
No.
Matter of fact, even as I see this now, I'm going to go through and get rid of any notebooks that I've had over the years. And I'm deleting everything.
Don't get rid of that green notebook, though. That's all your good. All your good ideas are in there.
Not one of those things worked out for me, though, which is sad. That's sad of all my brainstorming ideas.
Really want to see Fuck Your Shoes.
It's not going to happen, Chris.
For the sneakerheads, need to see this.
It was a idea I had together that it's kind of a roast show called Fuck Your Shoes. And it would be two guys who got new wheels. Are we calling them wheels?
You can call them wheels or kicks.
Kicks, whatever. They go on stage, and much like an 8 Mile thing, they make fun of each other's shoes until there's a winner.
Right.
And it's called Fuck Your Shoes. And, I mean, obviously it would be cable. Or what's beyond cable now? Just Amazon or something?
Web series?
I don't like... See, to me, being on the web series thing, is that... What is that?
That's big
you're
time
already
now.
on... Yeah, but you're already on the web if you just sign on.
But the web series also wants to become a show. Like that show High Maintenance was a web series. Now it's on HBO. Like they're like, done with this web series, got to be on HBO.
But I think more people paid attention when it was a web series than when it was on HBO. No one is talking about it. I saw a couple episodes I really enjoyed and forgot to go back to it until you brought it up now. That's the problem with too much TV. Last night, I'm watching a ball game, and I'm like, I'm falling behind on TV shows. No, I should be able to just sit and watch the ball game in peace.
Yeah.
By the way, Vito, you weren't texting last night. Chris, we had Hard Rock Johnny for a little bit, but he jumped out once it looked like it was a Chris win.
He was a little quiet last night. He wasn't praising the bullpen of the Cleveland Indians.
Could you just have any conversation where you're not putting someone down? We're all friends together. You know, we're all friends together.
Even his Cubs win was just like, didn't I tell you?
You motherfuckers! Now you fucking listen to the main man. So you're not cutting promos. So that just you're hanging out with your friends.
So that just means you're angry no matter what happens.
Right.
This is a happy anger, though.
I don't relate. I don't know what that is.
It's so satisfying is what it is. It's satisfaction is what you're hearing.
Oh, that doesn't sound like satisfaction at all.
Satisfaction.
Man, I think we went into the winter out now.
Yeah.
I've never seen this before. There was baseball players with ski masks on last night. Ski masks that they're wearing during the game. Like they're trying to actually steal home plate.
I busted out my bubble coat today, and it's a little early for me to do that, and I couldn't help it.
I like to hold off my winter coat until after Thanksgiving.
That's what I normally try to do, is at the very least just make it to Thanksgiving, and I couldn't do it.
Years ago, I mean, even when by this time of the year the World Series would have been long over, right? They bitched that the World Series was too late, even when it was the early part of October. And there was a World Series game with just freezing rain, and they're not calling the fucking game. These guys are being just hit with sheets of cold October rain, right? And they're just sitting there, and Bowie Kuhn was the commissioner at the time, and he was sitting in a short sleeve shirt, and he was stopping himself from like trying to get any rain off of his face. He was just acting like it was pleasant, and he was talking to people. This is the lie that we used to live in the pre-internet before Twitter would blow up on you. And he was just like, if anyone takes a picture of me, it's going to look like it's spring. But you watched that game last night. It's a summer game. We play all summer.
Yeah.
And then you see the managers are drinking hot coffee just to be able to stand there.
They're bundled up.
Yeah, and it's two cold cities that we have. Two cities with a lake effect, where it's even colder than it is the rest of the country because those damn lakes, which I believe if Trump is elected, will be filled in with concrete and turned into a fun skate park racino.
Oh.
That does sound great again.
It does. It really does.
I love the casino racetrack, combination. It's great. Double the gambling.
Well, you'd like to go to Chester, Pennsylvania then, my friend. It's all fun. It's all cheery there. So Chicago, that goes Friday night's game, right?
Yes.
So we play Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Yeah, and then Tuesday would be game 6.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are being played. Are you sure of that?
I'm going to double check. But
double check is just you checking.
No, it goes two games, then 2 games, and then it goes 1-1-1.
So we playing Friday and Saturday?
Yeah.
No Sunday game?
No Sunday.
Thank God you're here, Vito.
You are a gem. Don't you think he's a gem, Chris?
Well, by the way, this was...
Shining star.
And then Chris tells me he's going to double check it. See, Chris and I are old school where it's, what was it, 2, 3, 2, and then, 2, 3, 2. So it's 2, 2, 1, 1, 1.
I don't like Yes. Just drags it out.
And it's Saturday,
Everything
Sunday.
about baseball is drug out. That game started early last night, and I went to check, and some people I know fell asleep during it.
Yeah, at the end of the game, Joe Buck was like, well, when it started 4 hours ago, I was like, holy shit, this thing
It's like
did
that every
start.
Yeah. Well, we were like, it was 45 minutes. I think we were still in the bottom of the first.
I turned it on at 8 because I thought it was going to be the same game start as the first game, and it was like the third inning.
They announced the entire time.
Multiple times.
I didn't realize
that it was going to be an hour earlier because they were expecting rain, which didn't really show up until the 9th, right?
Yeah. It was barely. It stopped, actually. I think it showed up in the 8th and stopped by the 9th.
I know, but if you're there and you're cold and then it starts fucking
wet.
raining.
You get it in your bones.
I mean, John Cusack was fucking dressed like some kid was going to be yelling, "Where's my $2?"
$2. I want my $2.
Maybe one of the dumbest fucking callbacks in the history of. Was that guy Savage Steve who directed that?
Savage Steve Holland.
Now go through his movies. Savage Steve Holland was a guy who directed some weird 80s movies and some big MTV videos. And they were some of the nuttiest things that ever happened. I
was that?
See, it looked like the paparazzi got into the building and we're just walking by.
All right, first film, Better Off Dead.
That's the one we're talking about.
Yep.
Then One Crazy Summer.
Love.
Which is one crazy movie. I mean, there is such nuttiness in that movie.
How I Gone to College.
I don't even know that one.
Safety Patrol.
So it's really the first two that he's known for.
Yeah. He did a couple of TV shows, Encyclopedia Brown and the New Adventures of Beans Baxter. I have no idea what that is.
So those are great. Here's David, Santa Cruz.
Going on, Ronnie B.
Hey, buddy.
The MLB season needs to start at least a month earlier. This shit should be done in August. The ball flies better. The ball doesn't fly as well right now at this time of the year. So they're kind of restricted on that. And you shouldn't see guys in masks out there.
No, and there was a ball that should have went out in the first game that you see just held up. Yeah. It held in the sky above the stands and started coming backwards. I mean, it is, and a lot of these kids that are playing in the league are Dominicans or island kids.
Yeah.
And they are now, they lived their whole life playing baseball basically in bare feet until they were 12,
Yeah, Ron.
And
you got guys pulling hamstrings.
Oh, yeah. It's a dangerous thing to have that kind of explosive speed when you're tight.
I actually think that if you are born into a certain climate, it like sets your body temperature. Like I can't handle cold for that reason.
I don't know if Eskimos even like cold. All right, the phones just exploded with people trying to correct. Here's Jay in Connecticut.
What's up, buddy?
What do you got for us?
The Cubs play, the World Series is in Chicago Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So
they
that's
play
three games being played there.
In Chicago.
3 games being played there, Vito.
I'm really confused because last year when I went to every World Series game, we didn't get 3 games at home last year.
Well, Vito, that was 2015.
This is a whole new thing.
You've lost
Things
your
change. All
gem
right,
status.
Let me go over and check John in Kansas. People are hammering the phones now, and I don't want to have angry, happy Chris Stanley. Let me check before we get into some of this, Chris. All right, now people are dropping off because he said it the correct way. Here's Casey. Casey in, he wants to just talk baseball. Casey, go ahead, buddy.
Hey, guys, I just wanted to comment on the length of the games. I've been watching, and I don't know how often they do this, but I feel like they've been going to the bullpen like 2 or 3 times in an inning. And that just puts a halt in the flow of the game, I feel like.
But that is World Series baseball. There's in the World Series, you'll take a starter and run them for an inning.
Hell yeah. It's all about matchups. That's all they're thinking about. Because we have to get this out. We have to get out of this inning, whatever it is.
And people don't like this about baseball, and I get it, but it isn't about a speed game. It's a strategy game. Obviously, they don't play much strategy in the American League. So the American League is now forced to understand how do you play this sport. So a lot of people are calling and writing, and, we're losing those calls. You got to do, please hang on. We'll be right with you. I want to get your opinion. But Vito, people writing, your team stinks, Ron. The series goes 2-3-2. Why does Vito have a job? It's 2-3-2. Does he not check on things? It's 2-3-2. Fire Vito. Fire Vito.
It's a stupid schedule, and they should change it.
I'm not asking what's a dumb schedule. I asked, are we going to see games Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
It turns out we are.
Now, if I would have believed you, Vito, Sunday night, I would have been running around town like a ne'er-do-well, okay? Seeing probably another Broadway show or going to the museums to look at some fine art. I don't want to do any of that shit. I want to watch baseball. I said I want to watch every pitch. You tried to take this away from me.
Don't want to take every pitch away from you.
You didn't give us information.
I gave you
guessed at it.
You stopped me from double checking. And my initial check was correct.
You still
Initial check.
This annoys me most of all.
Now,
I don't like him confident.
Now think about when I said you were a gem and I rubbed his face in it because I believed you. I thought you were a baseball boy.
Look, Vito, there's only one Chris Stanley I like. Apologizing Chris Stanley. That'll never happen again, boss. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. But it's like now I come home and my dog is fucking smoking a pipe with my robe on.
Well.
So, no, I don't like that at all. That's a dart in my neck. Who's walking by?
I don't know.
She looks like a goddamn star of a starlight, though,
I'll find out.
It's too late.
How?
How?
Text Spencer.
Don't. He's with people.
All right.
Why?
She's going to
Text
see
Spencer,
that.
Who's with you?
Who are you
with? No.
I'm not.
The phone is taken away from you.
Right.
I want to.
Let me hold it.
You know what I want to have?
So I can check if you have Tinder.
And it looks. I'm going to tell you something. If I see your greasy, slimy fucking fingers on these notebooks, these invaluable notebooks that I'm putting up on eBay in just a little bit,
No, you can't do that.
and then I'll say to Lynn, hey, I'm going to split the money with you, 70-30. No, that's an unbelievable honor.
It's just like, it's so cool. All his handwritten notes and stuff from his childhood. Those pictures are so great.
I think he probably always wanted me to end up with it. It's very strange.
That's his wish.
I would think so.
Oh, boy. We'll tell you how we're putting together this stuff on Mitch Hedberg. I have the feeling, though, this is the thing, and I've never had this feeling with anybody else. I have the feeling that almost no one really knows who Mitch was, just from talking to people. They might know one little part of him, but that's it.
Yeah, there was something kind of private and a little bit mysterious about him. It seemed like he had only like a couple buddies,
like an inner circle. There wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know if the buddies got all of him either.
Right.
Know? And then I was actually thinking, well, that's probably true with me. Only some people, like Chris doesn't really know what I'm like at home. He just knows the prick at work. Vito gets to know me from what Chris tells him about me.
Sure. You're not allowed to get too close.
Don't talk to him.
That is a problem that we've had for a long time.
It really is.
To break myself of that. I will.
Who did you first of all, I had no idea that you used to tell the interns not to talk to me.
I don't want them to bother you, Ron.
He tells them not to talk.
Where did you learn this weirdness from?
I don't know. But there's a lot of crazy small talk that goes on that I don't want to bother you with. You have the show to think about.
Do you remember one time, this was like a couple semesters ago, one of the interns was trying to ask you or pitch you something, and I watched Chris actively shove them out of the door.
A person that I was talking with.
Yeah. And you're like, what are you doing? And you're like, and he was just going, yeah, we'll get back to you on that. And I'm like, what?
He wouldn't answer Pit Talk today whether or not I should have lunch. I had to go around Chris. I guess he thinks a brisket might be bad for me. I don't know.
It might be too heavy.
Did you learn this from Fez? Did Fez teach it to you? Did Earl teach it to you? This isn't something that happens with humans. No humans tell other humans not to talk to a third human. It just doesn't go down that way.
Might have been an Earl thing, or very early on. I can't remember, but it's just it's behavior.
I would think that Fez would teach protection, though. He was very protective of you. He wasn't.
Yeah, but I don't think that he hated people to talk to me.
Don't speak to Ron Bennington.
I was at the bathroom and I was in a urinal. I was talking to the person next to me, and Chris just leans in.
Are you okay, boss?
Look, Ron, we'll get back to you in just a little bit. Let him finish what he's doing.
Let the man piss, for the love of God.
Do you talk that way to guests?
No, God, no.
I hate the fact that you're the one who talks to the guests.
Guests love me. I'm very personable.
I don't know. I don't know why you don't want people to talk.
Look, I'm texting back and forth with Doug Benson all the time. Guests love me. Everybody comes on the show like, Chris the best.
But you're showing me a phone that you text with Doug Benson. That doesn't mean anything. He's probably saying
his home screen when he said it. We all know what a phone is. Look at this. Doug Benson right there.
You're not even supposed to have that phone during the show.
Give it to me. And I also want your code.
If I go, hey, let's take this off your plate, give it to Vito. Absolutely not. I mean, Vito, you don't want him to learn to be a producer.
No, I do. I fucking want. Of course I do. It's like, I want things taken off my plate, but if they're not done the way I want them done the first time, then I take them back because I'm a fucking crazy person.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you think that you're such a perfectionist, though?
That is true. You're not.
Oh, God.
You're the sloppiest person in history.
I would understand if every time you handed something to him, it was like done perfectly.
Yeah. Chris's work looks like his mind. It's just cluttered and crazy. Now, I will say this. His heart is in the right place. He's all heart.
Thank you.
But you can't find a harder worker. I mean, he's a hard worker.
But that can be confused for OCD. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of OCD people seem like they're working hard because they keep doing the one dumb thing over and over. You know, they're putting out a lot of energy. But could that be considered work? I don't know. But I noticed this. Because we brought in, folks, different areas that work in the comedy department to assist Chris. because, we found out that he was being, insane. And there's two things I found that you can't take off off his plate. You can't take off any work that he finds to be valuable. And you also can't take off his plate any food.
God, no.
Don't even ask him. If he's ordered something interesting, don't even ask for a bite. Don't even try.
First of all, it's only interesting to you. All food is the same to Chris. Whether it's some Tic Tacs that you found on the floor or filet mignon, he eats them both fast and then looks around for more.
Do you remember yesterday when we were talking about Pop-Tarts?
Yeah.
So I had found out that there's Pop-Tarts in the vending machine. I was very excited. So I bought Pop-Tarts in the vending machine, and then I was putting them in my bag. And Chris said, "What are you doing with those?" And I said, "I think I'm going to have these for breakfast tomorrow morning."
Yeah.
And he was like, "How would you get a food and then save it for later?" He could not understand the concept of why I would buy
Wait,
something.
but you don't understand food shopping?
Not much in my house.
I was like, "Yeah, I know that I'll enjoy this later. Tomorrow morning, I'll enjoy this Pop-Tart." And he was like, "What?
Yeah.
What? Why wouldn't you just, if you want a Pop-Tart, just eat it right now?" He was just floored by the idea of this.
I was weirded out. I was like, but, you could just eat it right now.
You were the same way with cigarettes.
Yeah.
You would smoke a pack of cigarettes after buying. He would sit and smoke. How about that guy who comes out to us, right? And he was a guy who smokes, and he's like, so he asked Chris for a light, and Chris goes, "I don't have a light." And he gets it from me. And the guy's, this is just a dude who works in this building. He goes, "You don't have a light." And Chris says, "No, I quit smoking." This gentleman was like, "What the fuck?" He goes, "Every time for years that I came out to have a smoke, that dude was smoking here." He's like, "I didn't even know if he worked here. I thought he just stood out front and smoked."
He was so shocked. He did like a cartoon reaction, like double take. He was like,
his eyes poked out real far.
He was freaked out. It's kind of embarrassed how freaked out he was. He did make a scene.
I can imagine if you're just a regular smoker and then you find out, like, how did that dude quit and I'm still smoking? It might be pretty shocking to someone.
Sorry, that makes me feel good then.
All right, let me just do some things on Vito. Let's take the fucking hammer off Chris.
Yeah, of course.
Back
Please.
to Vito. This is Kyle on Twitter. The worst part of Vito not knowing the World Series schedule that his team was in it last year. Tell Vito to get off sports and get that spoon in some rice. Chinese rice. Hashtag Spoonman. Hashtag Bennington. And then this from Adam, and I want you to listen closely, Vito. Last year was 2-3-2 also.
Oh, Vito.
I mean,
this is getting worse for you.
You're just wrong about everything.
Fucking everything.
I blocked last year out of my head.
Sure you did.
Yeah, no, I realized right after that the reason I didn't remember 3 games was because I blacked out at that one game.
What?
Oh, no.
What a bum.
Vito, you were going to be my baseball guy this time.
I know.
Guess what? He don't care because the Mets ain't in it, Ron.
Just relax,
He don't
Chris.
care.
I don't need you to help me to jump on Vito.
Northside boy.
Just sit down.
Ew, that's the same shirt
I
as
can't take
yesterday.
I can't take this shirt off.
I just noticed.
They won last night. This thing ain't coming off. The series is over.
But I saw you sweating yesterday.
Well, it's gonna be one sweaty shirt.
So, you bring up that he wore the same shirt.
Yeah.
We never would have noticed. So, years ago, we were doing the show. Fez, as an experiment, wore the same clothes every day. For how long, Chris? Was it months?
I think it was 2 months, if I remember correctly.
So it was 2 months. Not one of us noticed. I don't know how we were alerted to it. Do you know who brought it up?
I think he brought it up eventually on the air one day.
It might have been an outside entity. It said, "Did you notice that Fez wears the same clothes?" And then he says, so we had the biggest laugh of just how little we notice each other.
Sure.
So Fez then waits a week, goes back into the same routine of wearing the same clothes. We all notice immediately, but don't let him know for months. So after it was around, we were like, he's still fucking doing it. He's just going back to the same well. Everybody liked it, so he's doing it again immediately. And we let that go on for a long time. But there is something, the way women notice each other,
Yeah.
men just have a tendency not to.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how freeing it is.
Not only do I notice clothes or if like a woman has changed her hair, I notice if she has like a new shade of lipstick.
Are you mad when none of us notice?
No, I expect it. I have a lot of guy friends, so it's not bizarre to me that
Yeah,
men
but your
don't
guy
know.
friends are gay, and that's cheating.
True.
That's literally cheating.
I have some straight male friends. Most of them are in this room, but
I was supposed to ask you about this. Man, I got to be careful about it because I don't know whether it's a comedian who works in the. Am I wrong when I say drag genre or something that asked to come by to see whether you know who it is? I don't know. I'll have to come to it later. But
it's a comedian / drag queen. I know a couple.
Let's see if I can find the name here. Gail, before I get to, he's going to be. No, I'm wrong to even say he, right?
No, if it's a drag performer, you can totally say he.
I don't know, though. I don't know whether someone is a drag performer, a transgender, a transvestite, or just a female.
A drag performer is a female impersonator, oftentimes a gay man who is like, think of it like a clown, like literally dresses up as a woman, performs, either dances, sings, does burlesque, whatever type of performance they do.
That's a drag show.
That's a drag show. And you are not wrong if you say she or her because that's their character and that's fine. But you can also say he. It's not a big deal. It's not that sensitive.
Okay.
It's for fun.
All right. So this person goes by Bob the Drag Queen.
Love. He's hilarious.
And is playing the festival.
Yeah.
So do we want to try to get Bob the Drag Queen?
I think we absolutely should.
Okay. That was the winner of one of RuPaul's drag seasons, right?
Season 8, I believe.
Season 8?
Mm-hmm.
There's been that many seasons?
Plus 2 All-Star seasons as well.
So 10 seasons. Now, is that 10 seasons in 10 years or just seasons?
Seasons.
Okay, so kind of a Terry Jacks seasons in the sun.
Yeah.
All right, I got it. Now I understand.
Yeah.
So it's a Terry Jacks. It's a Terry Jacks thing, everybody. All right.
Grace. It's a Terry Jacks thing.
Grace! It's a teaser. Grace, I don't have anything open in the Glen area. All right, so you came up with a premise yesterday when we got into the Bill Murray, Tom Hanks thing. And by the way, it was all over TV today.
Sure.
All the morning shows were abuzz about it. And here's my prediction. Tom Hanks is going to pose in that picture and put it out and say, I have found an old picture of myself.
You know why? Because he's fun.
He's a fun guy.
He's a fun guy. But yeah, he has that thing where he's beloved almost in a similar status as Bill Murray.
But he's not crazy like Bill Murray.
He's not crazy like Bill Murray, but he's pretty universally loved.
Beloved.
90% of people will be like, yeah, Tom Hanks, love that guy. Seems like a great guy.
Here's what I will say. Muhammad Ali once brought this up by himself. Tom Hanks could go anywhere, knock on the door, say, I'm Tom Hanks. Can I come in? Drop a deuce and take a nap.
Absolutely.
And people would say, yes, of course, Tom Hanks. Come in.
And you would be happy to have that story. So who do you think is the next Tom Hanks? Who is going to be that next beloved actor who hits that level of fame and success and goes long into his career that, 20 years from now, people are going, oh my God, this guy, we love him. Everybody loves him.
First of all, you have to understand, this is a tough question because this is a once in a generation, if not a lifetime thing that Tom Hanks has achieved. And I don't think he had it for the first 8-10 years of his life. I don't know when it moved over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So this could even be somebody like maybe they haven't even hit halfway mark in that level of success. You just think that person, that personality type could go on, have a big movie career, do funny things, be beloved in person, get some, Oscar roles, that type of level where everyone's like, yeah, of course.
Right, immediately I think, Willem Dafoe. I have somebody, for real.
Okay.
And I, like I said, I don't think I think the early stages with people of his generation, and I'm sure hipsters or millennials would feel this way about this person now. I don't know whether he's going to have the solid roles that Tom Hanks has. You have to remember Tom Hanks is a 2-time Oscar winner.
Yes.
And back-to-back. That's Spencer Tracy thing. But this person is liked, and like Tom Hanks, you don't think that he's going to do something herky-jerky. You know what I mean? Like, the reason, the thing about Tom Hanks is no one thinks they're going to go in the other room and Tom Hanks is going to try to pick up their chick. Just, you wouldn't believe that. I'm going to say Paul Rudd has a chance at this.
Oh my God. That's such a good answer because when I was trying to think of this, I was kind of dancing around Paul Rudd, but I was like, this is not quite what I'm looking for. I think Paul Rudd is the perfect answer because initially when I was thinking of it, I was like, could a Seth Rogen grow into that type of personality?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And even perhaps a Jonah Hill because we've seen him do a little dramatic work.
Can I tell you the difference? Jonah Hill doesn't like people.
Okay.
All right.
This has to be a personable person.
Yeah. Seth Rogen, I don't know how Seth Rogen has pulled it off because I know he must just have a ton of cash.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll come in here in a T-shirt and jeans, looking scruffy, glad to see everybody in the hallway. I mean, it's impossible. He never looks like he has stress on his shoulders.
Yeah.
He doesn't mind if somebody else gets the topper line. You know what I mean? He laughs at other. Seth Rogen may even be a better than Paul Rudd.
Really?
I'll tell you why. Paul Rudd lives in upstate New York. He has a family that he seems to care about.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like I'm going to run around everywhere type of guy. But people love Paul Rudd. He's the two that we have right now are possibilities.
Yeah.
The other one that you throw up, chuck him.
Okay.
He doesn't like people. You'll see him snap like at some people.
Okay. You want somebody who's very personal. Seth Rogen, you can imagine years from now being like, we love Seth Rogen. Oh my God. You've seen his early movies, right? He's so cute in those. Like that kind of thing.
And by the way, Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd don't seem to age on the same level as the rest of the people of their generation.
Yeah.
That's helpful. But Jonah Hill, you saw him in Paris. They did a joke at his expense. And then he canceled everything else. If he would have done a joke at Seth's expense, he would have laughed hard. Maybe later go, well, that was kind of dickish. But then forgotten about it.
Right.
I don't see him as a grudge holder. All right, Chris Stangley, I'm going to come to you. But first I'm going to jump through this. Carl in Maine, who could be the next Tom Hanks?
Hey, I'm thinking about two different people, Keanu Reeves or Leo DiCaprio.
I think Leo too serious.
Yeah.
Keanu maybe a little too long in the tooth. People like him as a meme, but let's face it, would you let Keanu in your house the way you would some of these other people?
Probably not. And Leonardo DiCaprio does not have the likability, personality. And I'm saying that I love him. I adore him. But he doesn't have that warmth that it's like America embraces.
He also travels with a squad. And when you have a squad, you might be the kindest people to them, but you don't like everybody.
And once you have slept with that many supermodels, you hit a next level tier that America's not able to be like, he's just one of the guys.
Yeah,
we could be friends with him.
That's very true.
You've seen the pictures of him like running around with a water gun, like with his shirt on his head, just partying at Coachella.
Yeah, but like that's
with his buddies, not with the general public.
Yeah, that's not relatable and fun. I mean, on SNL, well, you know, whether or not this was a good bit, probably not, but they were calling him America's dad. I don't see Leonardo DiCaprio ever being called America's dad in his older years.
Audrey in D.C.
How about Bradley Cooper?
Bradley Cooper, well, first of all, there are plenty of people that like Bradley Cooper, and he's a terrific actor. I also feel like Bradley comes off somewhat as an elite, right? Mm-hmm. The right got mad at him when they saw him take his mom to see the president speak, or was it the DNC? Because they wanted him as their own. Hanks is a lefty, and no one gets mad at him
Nope.
for it. You know what I mean?
He maintains a certain everyman status that his politics maybe don't affect people going to see his movie.
But you almost have a little bit of a harmless, family member vibe to it. Here is Tony in Chicago. Tony.
Ronnie, what about Will Ferrell?
Will Ferrell, a little bit of a wild card.
He's maybe too weird in a great way, but he might be...
He might be the next Bill Murray, but not necessarily the next Tom Hanks.
Right. That he could be like an elusive, weird guy who you're like, oh my God, I went to this thing and Will Ferrell was there.
And it was so funny. Yeah.
He went crazy.
Garth.
Hey, Bennington. All right, so I've got one. He started out in TV just like Tom Hanks, made the jump to movies. How do you guys feel about Chris Pratt?
Chris Pratt is a possibility. He's very, very likable. He's going to need a couple of different kind of movies that don't have to do with dinosaurs or spaceships.
He definitely would have to dial back the action.
Well, he would have to find something where he plays a warm, funny lawyer taking on Washington, and that we would believe it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not like think, oh, this is cute. But with Tom Hanks, you can end up believing it. That Philadelphia movie, you believed it.
Yeah.
No one understands how terrible that Forrest Gump movie is. People bought into that movie for Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I mean, that movie is ridiculous.
For some reason, that movie was loved.
And still is loved.
And that's to his credit.
Matt.
Because it's not good.
Matt, what's up?
Hey, guys, the Will Ferrell answer blew me away. I should have thought of that. But what about Elijah Wood?
Too bizarre.
He takes a lot of weird projects.
Too bizarre. John.
I got Jason Bateman.
Oh. I like that. I see the personality level. Like, I'm not sure if he'll hit that stride of like being like so recognizable to every American, like not just people who like movies or like comedy movies or whatever. It's just everybody knows who he is. But I do think he has the personality level for that.
Can I tell you that something's different? When Jason Bateman makes a joke, it's always at somebody's expense, right?
That's why you think too mean-spirited.
Yeah, I think he's really funny, but even in everything that he does, somebody is the weirdo in the room. And there's going to be...
Because he does the dry, straight man so well.
And there's the people who get made fun of a little bit are going to notice that in him. Who's ever the kind of the dick in their gang. And that person is important. Here is Eric. Eric, what's up?
Hey, Bennington. I was thinking, how about Matt Damon?
That is an interesting one. I didn't even consider.
I think that is. I think that's a really solid answer because
Family Guy.
And he's likable. He's cute. He's not like next level, like
self-deprecating.
And will show up, do silly things, be a part of other people's projects. Like he always wants to like hop in for every like award show and do like a funny little sketch.
And the bit that he does on late night TV is funny, and it's at his expense. He's in the running.
Yeah.
He's in the running, and I thought of him as too big of a star or maybe too long into this. Chris, without taking anything off of our phones, do you have one?
Sam Rockwell.
I love Sam, but he's bizarre.
He is a sexy weirdo, and I'm not sure that I would put that in like a Tom Hanks category.
I would put him, if there's some kind of a guy who always get laid category, it's going to be Sam Rockwell.
And how?
Yeah. Perfect for your night that you're doing. Hopefully Sam Rockwell comes in.
Oh my God,
please.
I hope that's a special guest.
Yeah. Here is David. David, what's up?
Hey, how you doing? Love the show. How about Mark Wahlberg?
Mark travels with a squad, or did travel with a squad. And also, and this, needs to be remembered, he knocked a Chinese man's eye out with a stick while making fun of being Asian.
Yeah. So
I don't know if that shit ever gets dropped.
yeah, it's gonna be hard to hit Tom Hanks.
It's a
personality status.
Look, here's the thing: every name that came up, these are legitimate stars.
Yeah,
we're talking about something else. Tom Hanks is a star / Hallmark card.
Right. He's like a massive star, but seems like he would be, could be your, like, the best case scenario for your next door neighbor.
Let me tell you something.
But he's the first person you'd ask if you were doing a late night show. You're like, if we could get Tom Hanks on the couch the first night.
Because he's going to put over that person.
Exactly.
And people do that. He does everybody's first show, and he does a great job with it. All right, here's one. Let me just tell you how big Tom Hanks is and how loved he is. Because you might not even notice it, but you're used to it. If Tom Hanks's plane went down the night before the election, we might push the election back as a country. Because this country will take a fucking knee.
I have it's never even crossed my mind that one day Tom Hanks will go. It hadn't even occurred to me.
This country will become a horror show if something happens to Tom Hanks. People will be running down the street and breaking fucking windows. And you will see a loop of movies on TV that people sit in front of crying.
You'll walk down your street and it'll just look like the gallows. People will just be like hanging from trees.
I don't know whether we even put this up on the iBang today, but he just did that little rap thing that he did in the movie Big, and it's sweeping the internet because he's so lovable doing it.
He's so lovable, and he remembers every word from that, like, Triscuit biscuit, like that thing. He has every shimmy, shimmy, cocoa pop. He does it word for word with this guy who asks him to do it. It doesn't look like, it just looks like, off the top of his head, of course. Of course I remember how to do that shit.
Casey in Michigan.
Hey, how about Vince Vaughn?
I would have bet Vince was on his way to somewhere in between Bill Murray and Tom Hanks' land. But something changed. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
America, maybe it was the breakup with Jennifer Aniston. Maybe it was even the going out with Jennifer Aniston. But America looked like they hedged their bets all of a sudden.
Like, what would you say that was about, like, 10 years ago when it was like, it just seemed like he was going to dominate every kind of fun comedy?
Yeah, sure. And, the independent film people had respect for him. They gave him love, and something changed. Maybe he came out as Republican too early. It's something that you can do later in life.
Well, we've already decided you're the lovable dad of America.
Yeah, you're the lovable dad, and don't really, you got to understand he grew up in a different time. But if you do that young, it looks like, you don't give a fuck. I don't know. I think he's great. Anytime I watch him, I'm fucking happy. I am. I'll just laugh my ass off.
Like his delivery, like there's not much better than the way he delivers a joke.
But, at, let's say, Wedding Crashers, there was a peak that took place there. It was like early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, oh, he's on his fucking way now. You know what I mean? Give him the new Ghostbusters, whatever you want to give to him. He's going to be able to handle it. Something seems like it changed. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I'd be wrong to say I could pinpoint it. If I was his manager right now, I'd be like, maybe you need to get new representation because you're great and I don't know what's going wrong here.
So you're saying back to a darkness on the edge of town.
There is a darkness on the edge of town. Vito should have an interesting one. And I never trust his opinions, but I love laughing at Vito. What do you got? Who is the next Tom Hanks for you?
I think Kevin Hart, because he does all these little running events. People think he's a really likable dude, has really good energy.
Kevin Hart almost seems too big for that. Like, I'm trying to think of.
I don't think this peak he's at is going to last for the next 30 years. I think there's going to be a period like Tom Hanks where Tom Hanks went from
Without sounding like racist, I'm thinking that Kevin Hart could have been the next Bill Cosby before Bill fucked it up, which is different than being those other guys, Kevin Hart is an interesting, wild one there. But if you remember the other day with Bert, he brought up Kevin as almost working too hard, almost pushing too much positivity. That's the thing about it. You catch Kevin working. You know what I mean?
So you're saying this Tom Hanks character has to be a bit more effortless, or at least to the eye.
Right. No one ever thinks that Tom Hanks is fighting for a script or gives a shit how big the movie opens.
Right.
He does, but he never gets around to saying it.
It doesn't seem like he does, though.
Bert Kreischer could be the guy that we're talking about.
Yeah.
If he gets some movies and TV going his way. Because everybody loves that fucking guy. And the weird thing about Bert is who's that there? He sees himself as somebody who doesn't know that he's risen in the world. By the way, you're going to love this Unmasked, everybody. Hey, I got a break here, Chris.
Greg Stone is coming by.
Greg Stone should have a call on this. Hold the calls, would you, Vito? There's no reason to get rid of this premise. It's too good. Even though some people think everything should be segmented and done at the same time every day. Right back, Bennington.
It's like 140 character live journal. It's hashtag Bennington. Tweet it.
Everybody loves Greg Stone.
I have the same name as the guy in the song.
That could be about you.
That's
Greg Stone is here. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. How are you guys?
I like a guy in a day like today that's ready to wear a white T-shirt. I will say that.
If it's raining and it's cold, I'm coming in. White T-shirt, freezing, ready to get.
You're welcome, ladies.
Yes. That's for you, ladies. You got something big coming up. You're part of the New York Comedy Festival.
Yeah. We're doing the Rad Dudecast live. So it's our podcast, and it's going to be live, and it's going to be fun. We're going to have a great time. Anthony DeVito, Brendan Aaron, myself, we're going to do stand up first, and then we're going to sit down and just do Maniac podcast.
I think it sounds like a blast.
Oh, we're going to have a great time.
Sunday, November 6th at 7 p.m. at the New York Comedy Club. You can go to newyorkcomedyclub.com for tickets.
Oh, yeah. Use Rad Dude as a promo.
Promo code.
Yeah, promo code Rad Dude, or else... I don't know. They just told us to tell people that.
Use Rad Dude.
You get $5 tickets.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. I should
have told someone that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all part of it. See, this, you know how I'm trying to get Jen to do this stuff, right?
Yeah.
I happen to come out of the restroom after just washing my hands, and I see Chris down there doing the thing, and we were just talking. Chris can't take anything off his plate, and he's going to have a stroke one day.
What were you doing?
Coming.
Why did you feel like you had to be there?
I just want to get the correct pronunciation of Brendan Ayers' last name.
And you don't think that Jen could do that?
I should have just asked. I should have just told her.
You can't take anything off your plate.
That won't happen.
Vito doesn't get to do stuff. The interns don't get to. It's all got to be. You're Mussolini right now. You're Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin held on too tight.
Oh, too tight.
We have a very capable team.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Thanks for, you could have had her call me into the desk, because no one did that. I had to sneak upstairs.
Seriously?
Yeah, you piece of fucking garbage.
What happened?
Well, that's because I handed that off to someone.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, relax,
you set
Chrissy.
back his education.
Chris,
relax. Was your name not down there?
Who gets in trouble?
Nobody gets in trouble.
Nobody gets in trouble? No, of course not. It wasn't. I called Andy Fiori from the other show. I said, Andy, guy, buzz me up. And he buzzed me
up. Now, who was supposed to have his name on there?
Vito.
Vito, did you know about this?
Yeah, no, I put his name in this morning, and I knew that his name on his ID was different. So
Vito, if I knew it was you, I would have never ratted you under the bridge, Vito.
I knew it was you, Vito. I knew it the whole time.
My Italian brothers, I am sorry. I do think the person downstairs was she didn't like my style.
Well, I can get that. There's something unlikable about you.
You didn't like the white T-shirt?
You seem like...
I started unzipping, too. I was like, you see what I'm wearing? T-shirt for you, mama.
Can I tell you, it's Marlon Brando right now. We're dealing in a Marlon Brando world with him.
This is also, I am completely out of clothes. Mm-hmm. So I did go to CVS this morning and bought 3 Gildan white T-shirts.
Smart.
And boxers that they had at CVS, because I had absolutely no laundry.
All right, you're wearing that white T-shirt and white boxers. You're going into the Navy in 1949.
Can I tell you, this is not my first time also just running out of clothes and having to buy them at a bodega. I ran out of boxers once. There was a CVS across the street from my house. I run across. I go to buy them. I forgot my debit card. Then I realize I left my keys in the house. So all I have is basketball shorts on, no underwear, and a T-shirt and flip-flops that I went in. Locked out of my house. I climb into the window. As I'm climbing into the window, my shorts just fall right off my body, and I'm stuck in the window, just half with my ass shaking out, and I just hear a lady across the street go, "Oh my God!" And I had to slide in and then grab my shorts. So that woman has that.
This is why, and I've said this before, his life is going to become some kind of a TV show one day. I never worry about Greg Stone. His life is going to be great.
We gotta call. I think I say this every time. You gotta call my dad.
I will call him immediately. Immediately. It's going to happen.
All the confidence in the world in this.
Oh my God, this guy on TV looks like if Brian Regan's life went wrong. Look at that head. Like if Brian Regan's, no one's neck should be bigger than their head.
His face does look like it's all forced to the inside.
Yes.
Like they were all like, get away from the walls! And his eyes, nose, and mouth all got very centered.
All right.
Well, you're right. At the center, there's a glimpse of Regan.
Yeah, maybe Dennis, but could be Brian. And also the hair. Now, Gail came up with a premise earlier in the show today. Mm-hmm. I think that you'd be able to jump on and explain it to us, Gail.
Okay, so Tom Hanks is a beloved actor called America's Dad. Mm-hmm. Everybody loves him. Who is the next actor who could take that type of status?
Somebody younger.
Somebody younger who is going to reach that level of fame, success in the long run, who will eventually become that type of beloved role.
Well, they got to be likable. I'm going to first, of course, I'm going to go with myself.
Sure, that goes without saying.
But I'm aging fast. Who's like the best sweet guy? I mean, I know dad-wise, the dude on America's, I know he's older now, but the dad on Modern Family is like, he's like, I think around the board, everyone loves that guy.
All right, that's the
Ty. Sorry, I mean
Ty is the
is the actor's name
Burnell? Ty Burnell.
Ty Burnell, yeah.
He is a little weird though. He's a little.
Is he
weird? No, I mean his character is a little bizarre, but it's an interesting call. He needs some movie roles still. To put him over.
He does have that likability, but you have to also reach a level of success where that person's going to be a household name beyond people who just go to movies or
everything.
Here's Ben in North Carolina. What do you got, Ben? Ben, we got you? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I was talking to George Clooney.
George Clooney is too debonair, I believe, for that.
He's not there already? You don't think?
Right around the...
Well, he is beloved by the left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think he's far too fuckable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That people... I know it does seem like he'd bang somebody's
I didn't say America's DILF. That's a different...
Right, he's definitely a DILF.
I mean, Tom Hanks was extremely fuckable.
You think?
In Forrest Gump, at least.
See?
That really gets me going.
You know, no one likes special needs jokes. That's going to keep you away.
I love them.
Hitting Tom
That's
Hanks
me saying I love... And he's Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Let's go over here to let's go to Bobby in Florida. Bobby, what do you have?
Hey, Ron. I guess I think you can kind of plug into the early Tom Hanks movies, and he kind of would fit in. Jason Sudeikis.
Ooh,
I do
wild
love him.
card.
That's interesting.
Wild card. That's a good one.
I could see him growing into that role.
Midwestern boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got to look for it. Like, you know, like he could be your like really good neighbor.
Yeah.
Can play drama or comedy.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be Donald Glover for a while. I know he's in Atlanta, but I feel like when he went on Community, and like his rise was just like a thing. Like he's so likable, he's so sweet, you know, he's
People
funny.
love Community. I haven't seen. I mean, love Atlanta. I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna commit to that.
Me too. I really want to go through and watch it because all I hear is that it's the most amazing.
By the way, I noticed. I feel like I even pulled back there because I never like to say none of the black guys will make it to be Tom Hanks. You know, but. Like I said, Bill Cosby did have that role for a lot of years, and he drugged and fucked it away.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Do you know who dropped the ball? Gary Coleman. Do you remember how good Gary Coleman was? Coleman. Not Coleman.
Coleman.
Coleman
He's
is
great, too.
Coleman.
And he could be Tom Hanks.
Too much of a depression problem. No one likes depression.
Too dark?
Scary. Yeah. Too dark.
Gary Coleman I watched the first episode of Different Strokes a few nights ago. I'm sitting here like, oh, there's no way this is going to hold up. He is the LeBron James of that show. Just get on the ball. Every line was funny. He was so cute. So cute.
I remember Gary Coleman walking out like on a variety show or the old Tonight Show, and the place going crazy just with his funny walk. And he would come out like he was in charge of stuff. He was beloved.
Yes.
Beloved. His problem was he aged out of the game. He aged out. No one likes him. And
Because you could peak too young.
This can't be politically correct, but no one likes a mean midget.
No.
You know what I mean? You got to be happy in that role. You got to be jumping up on the piano and lighting people's cigarettes and just, you know what I mean, making life
fun
nice.
with it.
Because you can't do anything about them because they're little and they could beat you up and you can't punch them back and you can't do anything. So a mean midget, you're paralyzed. I'm stuck in a chair.
This is why he's going to be a major star. And I'll tell you, Dad. Colin, what's up?
Hey, I was thinking Steve Carell.
Oh.
Dark side, though. Dark.
What do you mean dark side?
I mean, he could give a look that could scare the shit out of people. There's very few people that you could, even on The Office, he could turn around and glare at someone and you would think to yourself, he is a killer.
Do you think that he could be Tom Hanks level approachable is really what you have to ask?
Not happy to see people.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, in your heart, you would see Tom Hanks and he could be at a party and you would feel like, I might be able to go, hey, Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Love you, Tom Hanks. And think he might have a warm response for you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Tom Hanks has ever said, hey, we're eating. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he does that.
I'm with my kids.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I would go ahead on that page. I would go with Matt Damon. Matt Damon, I feel
that was one that
really
came up.
likable.
Yeah, one of the, and I didn't think of him.
Yeah.
And Matt is, I mean, he might only be 2 roles away from this happening. Like, he's got the respected role in action, but he doesn't have that, I don't know, like a rom-com-y type. He doesn't have his own When Harry Met Sally type
that's what
of
he
thing,
needs.
you know? I mean, really, a lot of this stuff, good, Chris, a lot of this stuff, you can think of people who had it and blew it. I feel like Billy Crystal was there, and it's not there for him right now.
Yeah, Billy Crystal definitely had the makings of that.
Yeah.
Like,
Billy Crystal, it always blows my mind, was a heartthrob. Like, he was a heartthrob. If you ever saw that guy in the street, you're not stopping.
No.
You're not stopping, not even. I see him now. I'm not stopping. I go let Billy walk by. I don't need to.
Right. Not only with that, but he even played a thing where he was a tough cop punching people.
Yeah, what was that?
what is
him and Gregory Hines? Who are scared?
What era are we talking Billy Crystal being heartthrob? Like, what would you say that?
Harry Met Sally was, they were crazy.
Wasn't he, I thought that was kind of more like Baxter status, where he was like lovable guy, but not sexy.
Women bought into him. In no world that we live in, including the Hollywood, could he have gotten her?
Right.
I mean, she was amazing at that time.
No. Absolutely.
She could have run for president. She could have been the first woman president.
Why didn't she go for it?
Here's the guy that I picked years ago, Mitchell Walters, to be able to pull it out. Mitchell, how are you?
Hello, kids. How are you, children?
Good.
I'm stuck in traffic on the Belt Parkway.
Where are you going?
To Aqueduct. A couple races.
Is there a day that you don't gamble, Mitchell?
No, not really. I try to make it work, Ronnie. You know how I go.
I know that you're a positive guy. When it comes to that, and a cold, rainy day like this isn't going to stop you.
I was sick for the last 4 days with a little stomach flu. I did a gig down in Thomas River Saturday night.
Sweet.
And I'm getting ready to go to Vegas next week. I'm at the MGM where it all happened.
Okay. Now, Mitchell, you're still involved, right? How many names we got left?
Of course.
5 left.
Who's left in the...
Mitchell Walters, Nate Bargatze, Doug Benson, Robbie Slowick, and Jim Florentine.
Wow.
All to win that Joe Montana football.
Yeah.
First round.
But you know what? There was a glitch, and I actually beat the glitch.
You beat the glitch. Do you know who you want this week, or you like to keep that to yourself? Where are you leaning?
I'll tell everyone. I'm going with... I saved New England for a weekend like this. This is one of the hardest weekends to pick, and I have New England. So that's my play.
New England's playing who?
Bills.
Buffalo the hard way.
Yeah, now they...
Crazy pick.
Why?
I feel like it's a divisional game.
Do you think that they're going to lose twice to the Bills? Do you think it's not driving New England crazy that they lost to the Bills?
I'm sure it is, but fucking
That's why Brady is very strong.
Who would you, if you had to pick an MVP for this shitty season, who would you pick right now? Brady coming back. Brady coming back is a game changer. He's the only guy that looks like a superstar.
At 39.
At 39 years young, I like to say when I talk about him. All right, Mitchell, best of luck with that.
Thank you, Ronnie. You guys have a safe weekend.
You too. Safe weekend. What a thing to wish on someone.
Yeah.
I'm not
Do you
flying.
know something that we don't?
I mean, I'm pretty much going to be home. When someone's traveling, I say be safe.
Yeah.
That's the only time.
But chill.
I'm going to check in with everybody.
Maybe he just means because of the Halloween festivities.
Is that this weekend?
It's Monday, so most of the festivities will be this weekend.
Are they sending the kids out this weekend?
I don't know. A lot of times they do. Like, a lot of times they'll go out on, like, a Saturday or a Sunday. Why are you shaking me? No. Like, he's like, does it happen? It does.
You're supposed to be supportive of the show.
I've seen kids go out on a Monday Halloween. I've seen them go out on a Saturday or a Sunday.
I agree.
Why is he shaking me no
I'm
on
doing
that?
something fun this year. I'm getting the big giant peanut butter cup that they're selling over there.
Yeah.
And I'm telling each of the kids they can have one bite. Take as big a bite as you want.
Open the door in your bathroom and say, just take a bite.
But I'm going to keep it down low, too. I'm going to keep it about belt level. What was that, Vito? You're pointing a clicker at me, and
I don't like when the TV's going to
it's the only thing that you care about on this show. Not any of the facts, not if our guests get
I like
up
when
here.
our guests are in the system.
Why don't you tell us when everyone's going to be trick-or-treating and all
Chris,
the rules?
plug away for Greg again.
Greg Stone's in studio. There'll be a live taping of the Rad Dude Cast with Greg Stone, Anthony DeVito, and Brendan Eyre Sunday, November 6th at 7 p.m. at the New York Comedy Club. Go to newyorkcomedyclub.com for tickets and use the code RADDUDE to get $5 tickets.
Sweet angels you are.
When you say rad dude, do you mean that ironically, or do you honestly consider yourself a rad dude?
I can't answer the real answer now.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe. I walk in, I was just like, hey, we're ratting it up. Short for radical. I find myself as a radical man.
I know.
Yes, extreme
I know.
radical.
But see, most people don't say, "Oh, I'm Abby Hoffman" when they call themselves a rad dude. They think of them as this extreme sports guy. If you think of yourself as Tom Hayden, okay, maybe you are a rad dude. We just lost Tom Hayden, part of the Chicago 8. I don't even know how many of those guys are left now. So many of them have died. But years and years and years ago, it was the weirdest thing. I was playing in fantasy baseball, and it was all-stars, so you're playing against all the cities. And Tom Hayden, from the Chicago 7 or 8 trial, whatever you consider it, was on the other team, and he took baseball very seriously, down to the fact that he had his own bat that he traveled around with. I'm like, this is a guy who tried to basically overthrow our government. And now he's trying to move a runner ahead. Now, not only that, but he had been married to Jane Fonda, right? And at the time, Jane was with Ted Turner. So I'm playing baseball against a guy whose ex-wife's husband owned the Braves. And we're out playing fucking fantasy baseball. It was bizarre.
3 of the Chicago 7 are still alive.
And Kunstler's gone, who was the lawyer.
Yeah.
Who was, a major. So the only ones alive are who?
Rennie Davis, John Freunds, and Lee Weiner.
The guy that they took out, that they found and gagged, has been taken out?
Think so.
Wow.
Wait, is this a baseball team? Or these
the Chicago 8? This is in 1968, these are the guys that went in and caused the riot in Chicago. It became one of the biggest trials in the history of the United States. Probably should have mentioned this during high school to you guys. Seems like it would have been a big one.
I was busy that day.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you from a comedy standpoint, somebody was tear gassed in that thing and tear gassed on TV. John Belushi ran down, was part of the riot, and his family said they're watching TV.
Oh, my God.
And they see John running down the street getting tear gas while he's screaming and stuff. And I was like, I know, I don't even think he was that political. I just think Belushi thought, there's a fucking riot.
Let's go crazy.
Now, you enjoy comedy. I know your dad has done comedy, right?
Yeah.
Tell me something that was mailed to me. Don't touch it.
I'm just moving this stuff off of it. I know not to touch it.
These are. I'm taking these home to study these for a show that I'm doing. These are the notebooks.
I feel like I know where you're going to go. Who?
Go ahead.
Mitch, not Mitch's.
These are Mitch Hedberg's notebooks with jokes written in them, jokes that he's never performed before.
Let me just smell one. Just wave it by my nose.
I'm stunned.
That is insane.
Lynn has sent this to me, and I'm going to have her on Friday, and she said, just go over these a little bit before we talk.
Go over them? You're going to punch them up?
You don't have to read
Here's what I think.
You added your own notes to them. I wrote all my notes in red pen.
I crossed a few out. I didn't think they'd work.
I'm never going to do it. This is what I think Mitch wanted to say.
Yeah.
But is that
look
crazy?
at how cool they are. Just looking at the outside of them, it's just like he's just...
They're like 1950s notebooks, right? Like
he was the one I never got to see live. He was the one guy, besides like Carlin, who I didn't get to see either, but like Mitch was the one guy. He was my guy, and I never got to see him. And then I was like, literally, I think we may have had tickets to see him, and it was like he had died. Like we were planning to go, and then he had died. It was like really
what made him your guy?
Up. Well, you know what it is? It's I was working as a door guide at Rascals Comedy Club, and that was like where I was really just getting into like real comedy. And he was just, I heard the CD, and he was just killer. He was just killer. He had nothing to do with any style I have, but he was just a killer guy. He was so likable, and he was doing shit that I didn't understand. I've always been a story guy or like a loud guy. He would just say things that his notebooks must have some things that are just the dumbest thing. Like bread is white. It's like, that's not funny, but then he finds that little thing, and he's able to make that simple idea hilarious.
So your generation of comedians still look to Mitch, still think of him as one of the best.
Yeah, I think I'm in the last. I think my group is like probably like the last kind of group. When I was coming up, all the open mic guys were doing Mitch. Everybody was trying to. I tried to be one liner for a week and a half. It did not work well, but you couldn't like now you see a lot of Louis guys, a lot of Bill Burr guys, and you're like, oh, you guys are just ripping off those dudes. But back then, everyone was trying to be Mitch Hedberg. How many, look, if you watch, I love Hannibal and what he does, but I remember old videos of Hannibal and, who's, the guy with the guitar, Dimitri Martin. They were Mitch Hedberg. When they first started, they found their own voice, they found their own way, but they were with 100% Mitch Hedberg. But, he was just a...
It's always stunning to me, too, of like, there's so many funny guys out there.
Yeah.
But you can make a handful of people who actually influence the generation that follows them.
Can I say something? This is something that personal happened was yesterday. This weekend I was working with Mike Vecchione. And Mike Vecchione to me is hands down one of the best fucking comedians. And I know sometimes he gets down on the business. He's like a great, great comic. And I just thought about it. I was like, look, I just sent him a text. I was like, I don't know if you think about this, but you have to understand that you are the reason I came to New York. I worked at Rascals. He came to the club. He asked me how many times I was getting up, and I was like, I get up once a week and I do the Bringer show. And he was like, I get up 3 times a night. And that changed me. That's the reason I moved to New York. And then I worked with him, and I'm sitting at my notebook being like, I got to be that good. This guy is that fucking good. So I'm like, he might not be a household name. He might not be Tom Hanks, but he's changed stand-up. Like, he's changed it because I'm working harder to be as good as him. And if I'm working hard and if I say something that changes anyone, that's because he did it. So you might not see the shit you do in this. But he's you might not be Louis C.K., but you're changing the fucking world by working your ass off. And I just don't think people see that a lot of times.
It's hard. Well, from Mike's point of view, it's hard to see from the inside.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time that I saw him, I'm like, well, he's a corner that hasn't been turned yet, right? Like, the audience, you can't always blame the audience for not catching up yet. You know what I mean? Like, they'll get there, but he's doing something. But you can look back, even in music, and go, here's this guy that was great to change everything. And the crowd, the masses may have never caught up to him, but they're incredibly important.
Yeah. He did 20 minutes on IHOP. Just 20 minutes on International House of Pancakes, and it was killer. And I'm like, what are you doing? Jesus.
By the way, I think Mike just made the show too, right?
Yeah.
You made the show. That's the shit that you said is going to end up in the audio documentary because that was great. That was really great. And we got Lynn coming in on Friday, right?
Friday, yes.
She's going to do our show here, and then we go do a thing after as well?
I think we're just doing the thing after.
Great.
Yeah, just after.
And then we're going to play that. But I'm going to make sure that you get to hear this because it's the guys that he came up with, when Mitch came up with. But it was really funny, and I'll tell you this because...
I have the shirt. Oh, sorry.
I don't know if anybody knew him. I've talked to so many guys that maybe know a part of Mitch Hedberg here and there.
Really?
But to really get him, it seems like he was a very, very private guy. And I hear that from everyone.
Yeah.
Very, very private guy.
Yeah. I have a T-shirt that's him on an escalator going into heaven. And I remember when he passed away, they sold it online, and I still wear it. I take it out like once a year, and I wear my Mitch Hedberg, and it's him waving, and it's like the sweetest fucking thing in the world.
Who made that T-shirt?
I think Lynn had something to do with it because I bought it off his website after he passed. So I don't know if it was like a thing they just did to cover bills or something, but it was the thing where it was like I didn't even have any money, but I was like, I'll send you all my money. This guy changed my life. So,
such a strong writer. Well, there's the notebook sitting right there. How strange is that?
Yeah,
how strange is that?
That's the thing. Oh, sorry.
Good.
No, the thing too is that he changed the course of comedy, and not a lot of people. Like I was saying, like, not a people realize, you might not know who Mitch Hedberg is, but it's like, and he was such a strong writer, but he also was a thing of like, it was his personality. Like, he was just unfiltered. The filter was off, and he was just doing him and his thoughts, and he was cool with letting people think about that. Like, for me, it's like, I'm like, what, is this joke gonna be good? Are people gonna get that? It's like, no, you're not. Take that fucking filter off, and you just say a thing. It's, I thought this when I was stoned, and it's like, no, that's unbelievably genius and dumb and smart at the same time. Not dumb, but like, simple.
I get it, silly.
Way. Yeah.
Some of that stuff, the silly can be very, very important.
Greg Stone's in studio. There's going to be a live taping of the Rad Dude Cast with Greg Stone, Anthony DeVito, and Brendan Ayre Sunday, November 6th at 7 p.m. at the New York Comedy Club. Go to newyorkcomedyclub.com for tickets. Use the code RADDUDE to get $5 tickets.
And I got no problem saying that these guys are the next wave. You really want to go and see these guys at this point because that's when you get your own stories. You know what I mean? Like, everyone always loves those stories of, hey, I went and saw, this guy, Bill Hicks, and there was 8 people in the stage and nobody would let him leave. I came into a club once and was partying with the local guys there who partied with Hicks the week before. I was always like a week behind him at some, thing or another. And I would just hear about him. It was because like you weren't reading. And they said there was 8 people or something at the show. And that it was so funny that when he tried to leave, the 8 people got up and stopped him from getting off the stage. Like physically said, no, stay up there. And I always remember that story that night, and I wasn't even there for it, was like one of the magical nights of comedy, and only 8 people know it.
Yeah.
But, how many people were at the first supper? Chris?
13.
Nice.
Oh,
you are.
Yes.
Shit.
Wow.
Yes.
And counted Jesus.
Yeah, you did.
Forget.
You had to count Jesus.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why some people believe that 13 is an unlucky number.
That's where that comes from.
Oh, is that where that comes from?
Yeah, I think either that or there was a certain Miami Dolphins quarterback who was incredibly good and never won a Super Bowl. Who wore that? Those are the 2 things it could have been.
Yeah.
You know what I always think of the magic moments too? Because you used to own a club. When I used to be a door guy at Rascals, the best moments where we were closing down, we were bussing the tables, and the comedians would just be sitting there, and the show's over, and it's like the end of the weekend, and they're just... I sat with Carell LeBove one time, and this is before I was really doing stand-up, and he was just going on about stories about Sam Kinison, shit I'd never heard and never hear, but it was just like this like magic moment of to me, the magic was always comedians not being funny, just being real and just talking to you about shit they think, and that to me was always the best. I love the after hours at a comedy club.
Well, Carell LeBove was Sam's best friend and his opener. And those things are, epic shows. And if you ask me now who was funnier, Sam or Carell, I'd probably flip a coin on it, man, because Carell is unbelievable on stage.
Kills. And
Carell could just get up tonight and do 45 minutes on what happened today. Yeah. And I'm not just saying that like, oh, that's what a nice comment. I mean, he does it.
Yeah.
He does that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He throws out material that people would have carried their whole lifetime.
Yeah.
That's the toughest thing to get your head around in comedy.
Yeah.
You know?
For me, the two were, this one was bad. My dad took me, my first show I ever saw was Kevin Meaney. And every time Kevin Meaney came to the Bananas Comedy Club in Hasbrook Heights, my dad worked there. He would take me and we would see him. And to the point that I knew every joke he was doing. And I'm screaming. And now as a comic, I'm like, that was the worst thing. I'm like doing his material with him. And that guy would just destroy. I mean, he would just destroy, changed who I am. Him and it was, and Dom Herrera were the two guys. They were just lights out for me when I was a little kid coming and doing the, going to see comedy.
And both those guys have swatted down just audience after audience between them. It has to be thousands of shows. Meaney was incredibly crazy funny, silly funny, but that thing where he just sang the commercial, the touch, the feel of cat, we would break into that in our home.
Yeah.
Just for no reason. There's nothing. How is that supposed to be funny?
Yeah.
And yet it was crazy funny and then also bonding for us.
My dad, when he would flip out, would go, I don't care. I don't care. He would do the whole thing. And we're like little kids screaming. He's like, I don't care. You're not getting your diapers changed. I don't care. He would just do it. And that was part of our life, which is crazy.
I think his funeral was just yesterday, right? Barry wrote to me today. By the way, you got to see Barry Crimmins. It's got an amazing thing that Louis C.K. put out from him. Where did they do it in? Like a strange place, this special?
Oh, I'm forgetting what the name of the town is.
It's Kansas, right? Somewhere in Kansas. And but tell people how they can.
It's Whatever Threatens You, and you can download it at louisck.net.
Louis wrote amazing stuff about Barry and Kevin and what they meant to the Boston comedy scene that went on for years and years and years because of that. Those guys, the scene that Barry set up was so precise and so morally above what was happening the rest of the country that it's, when you say, no, Barry is amazing, he doesn't even know because the guys that he was influenced by were influenced by Barry. Like, do yourself. Find out who you are.
Yeah.
Don't go even lifting a pause from somebody else. Find out who you are. That shit's so incredibly important. And it's why that you saw not even just the generation of guys that came up in it, but the next two had held on to those things that got decided when? At a bar after the show.
Yeah.
Like, here's how we're going to do it, man.
Yeah.
We're not going to be like we're not going to be like New York or LA. It's not about what your next gig is, you know?
That's the issue I find with comedy. A lot of time with these comedians, they all want to be, they're like, I know in your mind you think, well, would Louis say that or would Burr say that? And it's like, well, then that's the problem. Don't think those things.
Right. Do
the thing that you want to do. I give credit to guys like Adam Ferrara and Christopher Titus, who they're not really doing jokes. They're doing Barry the same way. I worked with Barry at Levity Live, and he was just doing something that was people aren't really doing this. He's doing a thing that he believes in himself, and it's coming out, and it doesn't have to always be, 5 jokes a minute, or however many your jokes per minute. It's sometimes if you're changing shit, if you're just saying deep stuff and you're getting points across and you're funny, that is a thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I do believe in the whole gamut of comedy of the big wide range.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of colors, right?
Yeah.
So you can't be all the colors, but people don't realize that if you're just one color, you don't have to hate the other colors of the rainbow.
Yeah.
You don't have to fucking get mad about why people like red.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus, again with the red? That's how much they like it?
Yeah.
There's so many people doing so much right now.
Funny and original. That's all I care about. Be funny, be original. I don't give a shit about anything else.
But then I think there's this other thing, and maybe it shouldn't bug me, but it does. It's like the outpouring of love for Kevin Meaney after he passed. I just wish that people would have thought that a week, 2 weeks before. You know what I mean? That some of this stuff is more precious than we give it credit for.
Yeah, and you don't realize that in that moment. Who knows when that person needed to hear that from everyone. oh, just so you know, you're so beloved.
Yeah.
Even if we don't say it all the time. It's a shame that that's the way it always it comes out.
This is what the podcast that Greg's going to be doing is going to be all about. It's going to be 100% about this.
There's a lot.
Rad Dudecast?
The Rad Dudecast. There's a
The sad Dudecast. The sad dudes.
There's a live taping of it with Greg Stone, Nancy DeVito, and Brendan Ayers Sunday, November 6th at 7 p.m. at the New York Comedy Club. You go to newyorkcomedyclub.com for tickets and use the code RADDUDE for $5 tickets.
Just to what you're saying. Oh, sorry. Eric Bergstrom is a comic who I love, and I came up with him, started him in New York. And this guy was always lights out. He's a one-liner guy who's just unbelievable. And then he got cancer, and then everyone started being like, oh, give him a half hour. Here's the half hour. Now he's better. He beat it. But it was like, why the fuck do we have to wait for him to get cancer?
Yeah.
We're sitting there's so much talent in New York that people are like, oh, they're not the right thing. He's funny, but I don't know if we want to. And it's like, they're fucking funny. They'll find the way. Don't wait for them to be dying before you start giving them shots. Like, it's insane to me.
I didn't even like him to the cancer. And now that he's better, something's missing.
Yeah. That it factor is gone for you.
Yeah. Also, great reason why I don't work in the hospital anymore. He was sleeping in my living room. Yeah, it was the middle of like June, and he's sleeping in a leather jacket, sweating, and I'm like, but dude, why are you so cold? You know what? This is crazy.
Yeah.
3 months later, finds out you have cancer. I'm like, I should have saw that. I worked in the ER. I should have known this guy. Jesus, the hell was wrong with me?
Instead, you're just like, you're weird.
That's so weird.
Get out of here, weirdo.
Yeah. Take your jacket off. Well, we'll take a gander through these notebooks a little later on.
Yes.
Maybe you'll have a couple things you can do tonight. Who knows? Maybe no one else is using
material.
Yeah, don't tell me about this.
This is a very Indiana Jones moment, right?
Oh, yeah.
But all she wrote to me is, don't let the dog eat this. I'm
Come
like,
on, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yes.
Yeah, as
So,
if.
I had my dog put to sleep earlier today just so I made sure I don't fuck up.
Funny thing, actually, kind of random about that. Yesterday, I emailed DeVito. I just sent him an email. It's like, hey, look, man, this is the password to my Google email and everything. If I die, just make sure, just do my jokes or make sure my ideas or something, do something with this shit in case I die. And he emails me back. He's like, are you dying? What's wrong with you? Why would you just send me this completely dark email? But I was like, well, I have to do it now because I'm not going to wait. I could die. A car could hit me right in the head. So I sent DeVito all my passwords just in case. You know, I don't know what the fuck he would do. It's not Mitch Hedberg.
Chris did that with his porn passwords. He goes, some of these women need to be jacked too.
Yeah. Get it out of yourself.
Ew.
But that's disgusting the way you say it. There's a bluntness that isn't fun or funny.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's
like
the
gross.
thing.
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that.
Disgusting.
Is it?
Yeah, you kind of stepped on everything and we were in this nice thing. And you just talked about jizz
weren't we?
We lit candles. It's all pretty sweet.
Everything was really nice. What do we got coming up next hour, Chris?
Author Simon Reynolds just wrote a book about the glam scene.
Well, I should have wrote a book about the glam scene because I know about. I'll just say this: I know more about it than Simon Reynolds, and I'm ready to let him know that. No. He's a very funny writer because he writes about rock and roll from a very intellectual point. Like this book is like, I'd say a phone book, but you guys don't know what that is. I'll just say it's like a very thick book.
How could a phone be in a book?
Yeah, it's different. It's different. I'm coming from a different time. But let's plug Greg one more time. And because after I got to go do the Unmasked with Tom Segura, which should be great fun.
There's going to be a live taping of the Rad Dudecast with Greg Stone, Anthony DeVito, and Brendan Ayers Sunday, November 6th at 7 p.m. at the New York Comedy Club. Go to newyorkcomedyclub.com for tickets. Use the code RADDUDE for $5 tickets. And on Twitter, it's at @GregStone_.
And again, go see these guys. This is the time that you want to go see these guys before it's $90 a ticket. All right? And that is going to happen. We'll be right back. This is Bennington. It's the Bennington Show. Ron Bennington, Gail Bennington.
Yo.
Chris, they call him Stanley Bennington.
Do they?
You know that I'm still waiting for the papers to make Chris your actual non-biological brother or stepbrother, which oddly is the only porn title that Chris ever goes to.
I love it.
So he won't be a natural baby.
No. First of all,
you remember that from last week?
Do I remember it? I have woken myself up giggling when he said, "Is it Is it adopted or not?
Well, you know, those adopted
Natural
kids
baby.
are unnatural.
They are not.
I have 3 natural babies and 1 China baby.
You know, I had a friend who, well, he did radio in Florida, and he's passed away since then, but he was a kid growing up, I guess, more in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And he claims there were people that he couldn't play with because his parents were divorced, right?
Wow.
And there were times that adopted babies, about the same time, were picked on very heavily by society for being adopted.
Not natural.
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
Different.
I mean, could you even... First of all, anybody who thinks that you should even stay with your own family is probably pretty nuts.
Yeah, that would be... That's already weird.
Yeah. I would have been much better off if I was raised by Lou Reed. But you know what I mean? Like, it is... that whole family thing is the oddest thing. But for anyone to think, wait, you're not living with your natural parents? You, my friend, were a freak. Stay away from the rest of us so we don't catch any of it from it.
Or you ever just think of the term bastard and how weird that is? Like, that's bizarre that became a way to call someone a bad name is your father left before birth.
Yes, you're a bastard child. You're unwanted. Not just by your natural father, but by society. I used to order this meal called Bastard in a Basket for years. And later I found out it was chicken in the basket. And I would always, they're like, what would you like for dinner? I would go like this, bastard in a basket. Bring it to me, bastard in a basket.
That's what you are.
Some whiskey and some milk. My son will start in here better with some milk and steak. But there was an old TV show, I guess from the 1960s, that was rerun for years called My 3 Sons. And they had 3 sons. They're running too long. So one of the sons no longer wants to do the show, so they had to have him move away.
Mm-hmm.
He moved away. So they now had another son, but Fred McMurray had no wife at this point. You know, he was a widower raising his 3 sons. So there was a neighbor kid named Ernie. Ernie was his name. And they were like, well, let's just move him over and have one of the sons. And if I'm wrong about this, it's the clouds of time. This is the way I saw it through a child's mind, though. The way I remember it, Ernie's parents were going to move to a condo where they couldn't have children. So they gave the baby, no, not even a baby, the small child, over to Fred McMurray.
Seems like you shouldn't move there.
Yes.
You know, if you have a child and all.
Now,
how nice was the condo?
This is the way. But at the time, I didn't even know what a condo was. I couldn't understand how you could own an apartment in the suburbs. So I might be completely wrong about it. I'm telling you this. It's just in my brain. So you don't see the elder brother ever again, and Ernie doesn't see his parents anymore. And as a child watching these, I don't know what these that come on 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever, like, this is crazy. I feel like life is a lot more fragile than I thought. Then there was the kids at school were teasing Ernie for being adopted, and they were calling him secondhand, right? Mm-hmm. And I had to go and ask my mom, like, what are they saying? Why are they calling him secondhand Ernie? And she was like, kids are mean. And I'm like, what does secondhand mean? Like, this is secondhand? And she was like, no, it's like if you have something old, like you buy something used, like an old clock. And I remember saying, who would buy an old clock? Like, I'm starting to agree with these other kids now. I don't want an old clock. I want all our stuff to be new. And that's all I remember about my 3 sons. I think I went on a little bit of a rant there. I'm kind of embarrassed.
Yeah, but
I
learned a lot.
Or you might have learned the worst stuff ever. Because, I don't know, do you ever have any memories from when you were a kid that you got everything completely wrong?
Oh, God, I'm sure I did it constantly.
I know
and it was like
I did.
one of those things, like, I wouldn't even ask. I would just
Kids don't
say,
ask.
I just go, oh, I assume that I have this down. This is not a problem. Like I know a friend of mine, his father is very tan, his mother is very pale, and he thought that his dad was an Indian and his mom was a pilgrim. He was just like, I heard about Indians and pilgrims. I go, that must be what they are. Like
That's my background.
Yeah, so he didn't feel the need to ask. He just assumed.
You know, you just said something there. Just said it. I never thought of it before. And a chill went through me. What happened to the pilgrims? Were they... was there a disease?
Did they...
I mean, I don't meet anyone who says I'm part pilgrim.
Did they just, like, acclimate?
Yeah.
Like modern day?
I think a lot of them were sick from the just the buckles on their hats.
Oh, that made them sick. And what happened to those Roanoke sons of bitches?
Well, those
is that the ones who disappeared? Roanoke?
Yeah, Roanoke.
An entire colony disappeared, and then there was just like one weird word etched into a tree that was very cryptic, and they didn't know what they meant. But an entire colony of people just vanished.
I'm sure they were eaten by but it could have been UFOs.
Sure.
I don't know whether you heard this about Bill Clinton, who may be the next president of the United States. We don't know. But supposedly Hill is a big UFO believer and has said to people, if I find out anything about UFOs, I'm making it public.
That's exciting.
If she says, like in the first week, folks, don't panic, but I'm going to blow your mind.
That's enough to vote for her right there.
She doesn't even bring it up in public. I don't know what thing I'm looking for, but come stand next to me, Gail, and see if this makes sense to you.
Okay.
It looks like I'm looking at a New York set from the 1950s where those were all like buildings. See the lights in there? Chris, come on over this way. And it looks like the Honeymooners back set where that looks like little new... Like miniature, houses. So those are from the lights in here, huh?
Yeah, and then that's our monitor setup.
Right.
Yes, right.
Yeah, that means nothing to me. I'm paying more attention to that, which looks like big buildings.
Yeah.
But 1950,
That's
nobody
really
would have those
weird. But
weddings
why
though.
does it normally look like that? I've never really noticed that.
I've never noticed it before either. It must be something, different.
Different.
Maybe it's a UFO in our midst. Coming up in a little bit, Chris, we have a guest who's going to talk about the 1970s glam scene in London. This is one I wanted to do a GPS on for some time.
Yeah, we definitely have to get back to London because we did London in the early to mid 60s, right? That was
that was the only time. And then we could have went back and done the late 60s, which was like Cream and Traffic.
Yes, things got a little trippier.
Maybe even Black Sabbath, you know what I mean? I think came out of that same era. But just the weird androgynous glam scene is so great. Some of my favorite music of all time. I mean, we've got to do Bowie, and we've got to do Roxy Music. We've got to do T-Rex.
Yeah. Slade would be the same.
First of all, I love Slade. Good bottle drain, good bottle. They never really passed over here to the side of the pond.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It happens with some bands that don't. I'm going to give you another glam band that would probably played bigger over there, but Sweet.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think David Cross said Sweet is his favorite band of all time. So already that's 6 that we could do. Do you still do Gary Glitter after his weird I'm going to Vietnam to meet infants tour? I mean, does that disrupt the music? Chris, you look like you got one that you want to put in.
Queen
belongs on the list.
Yeah.
Queen belongs on the list. I'm going to give you another, and I think that they are fantastic. Mott the Hoople, who, All the Young Dudes album, the entire album. Fantastic. They covered Bowie. Well, didn't cover Bowie. Bowie gave him a song. But they also covered Sweet Jane on that first album. So that gives us, what, 8 or 9?
Yeah, that's right. We're right there.
Who else are we missing, though? There's got to be... You know, what happened there is it's like Bowie kind of brought back Lou Reed and Iggy Pop. And then in that period, those guys kind of became glam.
Yeah, like they kind of that transition of just like how that music for the same artist like completely changing their sound and like moving into different.
It's pretty cool.
It's really cool because I don't think that there are too many times and places that happened, but it's like, you know, 60s into 70s and then maybe like some 70s artists into 80s, but
I got somebody
didn't really
else.
stick around for many other people could make that transition.
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing to pull off. Now you're just like, hey, your time's over.
Yeah.
We've moved on. But I'm going to give you, we might have done her in Detroit with a band, but Susie Quattro, an American living in England at the time, put up a picture of Susie Quattro, you know, anytime in the 1970s. And she had, you know, her hair was kind of like Bowie's, so she was coming at it from a whole nother angle. Look at her. She was sexy as shit. Yeah. Find a couple more. Yeah, that's before she became Leather Tuscadero.
Yeah. So we she was even in the Detroit scene. What was that band? It was like an all-girl kind of rock band. What about Arrows? They're British?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, they're
that
like
would be cool.
Or like they're kind of like glam punky. So I don't know if that.
Yeah,
would
you got
be
to check the actual year to see how. You know what always happens with the scene is as soon as a couple bands get popular, everyone's moving out.
Yeah.
You know?
Chris, stop looking at leather
Susie
pants and tell me when the Arrows were around.
Be in the moment, Chris.
Got it.
He was way too close to her leather pants for
They have a
comfort.
bikini on too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Arrows. What year? And are they from London?
Put in London Calling and see if that helps you at all.
Arrow?
Oh my God. Arrows.
Arrows.
Plural.
Got it.
God damn it, Chris.
77. They were around 70. Yeah.
Too late?
Maybe right at the end of it, but
I thought they were
probably
earlier
too
than
late.
that.
Yeah, but they might have been around over there.
But they were London too. 74 to 77. They were.
Right,
74.
is right.
That's what
Right.
we were asking.
We're not going when they broke up. That doesn't help anyone. So those are really good. Those are really, really cool. So we're going to be talking to who, Chris?
Simon Reynolds.
Now, Simon Reynolds is written this book called Shock and Awe, Glam Rock and His Legacy from the 70s to the 21st Century. So he kind of makes the case that glam, once it was invented, never went away, which you can kind of say about punk or any different kind of country music. You know what I mean? And it is true. I've said this before. Once, at least with men, I don't know about women, but once there is a man's haircut, that then becomes acceptable forever. You know what I mean? Like a flat top didn't go away. You can meet people with a duck's ass. You can run in to any kind of men's haircut. It may not be as popular as it once was, but if somebody came in here and they had a mullet, we wouldn't be acting like, oh my God,
What is that?
yeah, we're just like, hey, this dude came in, he had a mullet. That doesn't matter with men. So, Simon Reynolds, Shock and Awe, Glam Rock and its legacy. It's really interesting too, because we look at Bowie as being this super genius, but it took him a long time to get noticed. Almost everybody in London, I mean, he was around when the Beatles were around.
Yeah.
And almost everybody got their time before him. And then even after him, like a lot of people, there was some stuff that still seems like, oh, that was pretty shitty out of nowhere. You know, like genius. Hey, shitty. Genius. That's some shit, isn't it? And with Bowie, I'd missed the boat so many times, and I'm always glad to miss the boat with him. But some of you are like, well, maybe I'll like it years from now. But sometimes you don't at all. All right, are we ready for him? Let's bring him into some David Bowie. Author Simon Reynolds, go pick up the book, Shock and Awe, Glam Rock and its Legacy from the 70s to the 21st century.
Simon Reynolds is in studio with us. Simon's new book, Shock and Awe, Glam Rock and its Legacy from the 70s to the 21st century, is available now in stores and online.
Nice to have you here, Simon. Congratulations.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I love it. Like, even in the title, a lot of people think that the glam rock was only a couple of years in the 1970s, but you make the case it's never going away.
Yeah, I think that the glam rock DNA sort of spreads far and wide, and you can see it crop up in the 80s with hair metal is one area it comes through, all the British MTV groups of the early 80s, Culture Club, and right through to the present, with people like Lady Gaga. It's really rather pervasive thing, glam.
Now, where would you say ground zero for glam rock is? Where did it really start?
Well, you could say that the godfathers of it were the Rolling Stones, in the sense that they did, there are various, there's a video where they dress up in drag, they wear makeup in the video for Jumping Jack Flash. Mick Jagger had and Brian Jones had quite a sort of androgynous image. But I think, strictly speaking, glam starts with Mark Bolan and the T-Rex, and with Bowie. They were friends and rivals, and they were both kind of competing to be a pop star, a superstar first. And Bolan clinched it, really. He created this sort of phenomenon they called T-Rextasy, which was like, in the UK, was like Beatlemania again, hordes of screaming teenagers. And Bowie saw the success that Bolan had with, all it took was a little bit of glitter on his cheekbone, and it turned him into a teen idol. And so Bowie kind of then invented the Ziggy Stardust persona, and that's what made him like a superstar.
But was everybody in London, was it an actual scene the way you think of some places? Like, were all these bands interacting with each other? I
think a lot of them knew each other. Some of them had like professional connections or collaborated. But, Bowie, one of the groups he sort of helped was Mott the Hoople, and they were he wrote All the Young Dudes, which is their breakthrough here, and, influenced their imagery. I think a lot of them knew each other. And in terms of it being a scene, one of the things that defines glam, that I think was a new thing, was that you had the fans dressing like their idol, like a mirror image, look-alike thing. I don't think you got that in the 60s with the Stones or the Beatles. It was all the fans of Ziggy Stardust would, have the lightning bolt drawn in their face in makeup, and they would get their hair cut to look like Ziggy Stardust. Bolan had people turning up with scarves and satin jackets and glitter on their faces. So that was the sort of, it was kind of like a subculture, but also like a mass pop movement. It was very visible.
Now, in any scene, there's going to be the artists who kind of rise to the top and they get, international stardom. Who do you think of that glam rock time, didn't make it the way Bowie or even T-Rex made it? Who do you think were kind of the bands who could have been great?
Well, there are bands who had some success at the time that have been forgotten a bit, like Cockney Rebel were a really interesting band. They're really mostly known for this song, Make Me Smile, Come Up and See Me, which is their big hit, and I think it had some success in the States, and it's been covered like 120 times or something. But they did these really strange first couple of albums, really interesting mix of sounds, and they didn't have a guitar. One of the main instruments was a violin. It was a really quirky sort of 70s art pop sound. Roxy Music, obviously are fairly well known, but it's the first couple of albums that the giant achievement, I think, with a very strange mix of pop and experimental sounds.
Well, Brian Ferry's still making music to this day, and I don't know. It seems like he and Bowie weren't kind of too keen on each other. Is that true?
I think there was a real rivalry there. They were the two sort of pop dandies of British pop who also had a sort of intellectual, art sort of aspect to what they did. They were, and so clearly they were competing for the same sort of status. But then Bowie and Brian Eno, who was ejected after 2 albums from Roxy Music, became very close collaborators and friends, and a lot of the amazing music that Bowie made in the early and late, the mid to late 70s, like the album Low, Heroes, that has a really strong imprint from Eno. So, there's maybe Brian with a Y and David Bowie didn't get on, but Brian with an I and David Bowie became really close collaborators and friends.
I always found, too, amazing about that. Well, first of all, you brought up that Bowie gave away one of the greatest songs of all time to Mott the Hoople and kind of brought back a band that was on its way out. But then he kind of did it again with Lou Reed, where Lou Reed almost joined the glam thing. Iggy Pop. I mean, it was really a lot more powerful, I think, than a lot of people have given it credit for over the years.
Well, the thing that I found so funny or interesting really with Bowie was, in the very early 70s, he was considered washed up. He'd had one hit with Space Oddity, and he was considered like a failure. He'd been trying to be a star for about 8 or 9 years. And then almost like overnight, he switches from being this sort of, one-hit wonder to being this guy that everyone thinks has the Midas touch. And people who were heroes to him, like Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, and Mott the Hoople, they become his proteges. He's the one who's saving their careers. And with Lou Reed, the Transformer album, which Bowie produced with Mick Ronson, his guitarist and sort of a key figure in the Bowie sound at that time. It's really like it's much more like a Bowie album. It's like Hunky Dory, but with Lou Reed sort of inserted into that sound. Yeah. It's like nothing else really that Lou Reed ever did, And at that time, Lou Reed was like, he took the image on. He was wearing maroon nail polish. He had a lot of white makeup on his face.
Yeah.
He really went to town with the glam image and then dropped it quite quickly.
Yeah. Well, I think that what also became part of it is that whatever you have invented has to move on.
Yeah.
Quickly. And Lady Gaga is a perfect example of somebody who's fallen. Now Madonna kind of followed along after seeing those guys early on, is that to create a persona and then get rid of it the way a movie actor would.
Yeah, well, but Bowie always described himself. Bowie invented that thing of the serial rebranding or remaking of yourself. But he always said, "I'm an actor." I think it's on Hunky Dory. He says, there's a credit for the producer, and he says, produced by, I think it was Ken Scott with help from the actor, and the actor is Bowie. He always said, rock and roll is one thing I do, but I'm going to do movies, I'm going to do plays, I'm going to write musicals. He was very into musical theatre. He wanted to be an all-round entertainer, and also the acting thing was like, he's going to play characters, Ziggy Stardust, the Thin White Duke later on, all these different personas, and then they had different sounds attached to them. And no one had really done that before. Before that, artists were supposed to sort of evolve gradually and organically and have a thing they did that they kind of tweaked a bit. But he invented this thing, which is now quite common. An artist like Bjork does this where you jump from album to album. It's a whole new sound, a whole new set of ideas. So he invented that.
It's stunning to think about something like that. It's stunning to think. And even when you brought up the bands of the 80s, at the time Bowie had kind of been more of an influence, I think, on MTV and the pop music at the time than maybe anybody else, maybe even more than Dylan had done for the generation that followed him. And yet I don't always know if he got that kind of credit for it at the time. I think since people have talked about it, but no one was saying, "Hey, Duran Duran, you kind of look like a cleaned up, David Bowie."
Yeah, I mean, Bowie was a pioneer of the promo video, but there wasn't really a place to play these things that much, and that was the difference with MTV. The bands who'd learned their tricks of the trade from Bowie and from Roxy and those glam groups, that they finally had a sort of format that was designed for what they were doing, and you get Duran Duran doing these increasingly excessive videos, Culture Club. a lot of it's, the video industry, a lot of it's coming out of London. And that's why the center of video directing and filming.
For you, did you think Angie Bowie, what part do you think she played?
I think she was like a big influence on Bowie. I think she was the one who sort of encouraged him to sort of get into a more extravagant image. I think she had a big role in him sort of introducing him to the world of the gay clubs in London, where Bowie learnt a lot about image and presentation and campness, and he really assimilated that. And I think they were sort of partners in that. She was like a creative partner with him. But glam as a whole, there aren't that many women who are in prominent positions. Often it's in background positions. Like Mark Bolan's wife, June Bolan, was a big influence on him. Some people say that it's her who said, just as he's about to go on TV, put some glitter on your cheekbones. And that's, had a huge effect on his success.
Well, that's the same thing. I think that's kind of been forgotten a little bit by history, because Angie, I think, was the haircut. And like you said, she was like openly gay before then, David ever came out. But and I thought she kept the chaos going, which is sometimes good for rock and roll. You know what I mean? The fact that it isn't especially when you're young, that it isn't a stable lifestyle, I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, she's definitely like a catalyst, and I think they had a famously open marriage, didn't they? And you need people like that. I think actually he was a little bit kind of shy in some ways, and a little scared of performing, and she kind of just pushed him out there.
Yeah, she's very, very bold to this day.
We're talking with Simon Reynolds. Simon's new book, Shock and Awe, Glam Rock and Its Legacy from the 70s to the 21st Century. It's available now in stores and online.
And one of the great points of this is that once glam came in, if you think about it, it affected everything that came after, whether it was punk, new wave. And even if you look at Michael Jackson's career, that the career of him as a kid, he wasn't that flamboyant. Prince, it has really worked its way through all kinds of performing and music now.
Yeah, I mean, I think where you first, a lot of punks were fans of glam rock, and I include Alice Cooper as part of glam rock, and Johnny Rotten auditioned for the Sex Pistols by miming to "I'm 18" on the jukebox. I think he didn't even sing. It was just like his grimaces and weird gestures that got him the job as frontman. Singing was not necessarily a necessary ingredient of joining the Sex Pistols. But he loves Alice Cooper, and he said like Killer was like the greatest hard rock album of all time, and so it's a big influence on a lot of the punks. And then you really see the glam effects coming through with all those MTV in the type British groups, the second British invasion, they call it. In the UK, we call them the New Romantics, because they were so into dressing up. It was like, dress up box pop music, Adamant, Boy George, ABC, virtually every group of 80s Britain is a sort of Bowie damaged, Bowie influenced artist.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that at all. And of course, a lot of people look at it just visually, but the sound is there. The sound, particularly the early 70s sound. I don't know whether they followed him as much as he started experimenting in the late 70s. And then he came back as a real pop artist. It's always amazing the last couple of times that I saw Bowie, particularly the last tour, that people in America, they would bounce up more for 80s Bowie, whether it was Let's Dance. There would be more people who grew up on that music than like me on Suffrage City or Rebel Rebel, which was always the big songs.
Well, I think it's so interesting because he reinvented himself all the time. Everybody has some version
they all
of
have their
him.
different entry points.
Yeah.
That's what I thought with the mass, the collective mourning early this year. What was fascinating was to see all the different stories about how people got into Bowie. And you're right, some people it was Let's Dance and Modern Love that was their entry point. There's some people love certain albums he did in the 90s.
Sure.
So everyone has their own their own particular journey through it's a universe of music, isn't it? Bowie's music.
Well, when I saw him in the 70s, he was dangerous but unhealthy. There would always be really short shows. And then when I would see him in the 90s, and then even the last tour, which was the early 2000s, he was much stronger physically, but less likely to, you didn't feel that damn. He was very professional. The band was very professional. I think in a club in Fort Lauderdale, I saw the longest Bowie show that he's ever done in his life. And I remember even thinking at the time how lucky we were to still have them, because when I would see him in 75 or 76, I'm like, this is not going to last long. You know what I mean?
He was really he wasn't really eating, I don't think. I think he lived on milk and chili peppers, I think was his diet. And cocaine.
Yes. And he was so thin, he looked like he was going to pass out.
And he smoked 4 packets a day of, I think it was either Gauloise or Guitain, which are like the strongest unfiltered cigarettes you could get. So, he was not living a healthy life in the mid-70s. And then he, as you say, really in the early 80s, he got fit. I think he got his teeth replaced because they were in bad shape, and he was tanned and healthy, and doing more like a Springsteen approach to a concert where it goes on quite a while. You run through all the popular songs as well as your latest album,
and then even here as a New Yorker, people would just love to just see him around town. I had remarked on this before. I was at a thing one night. It was a party, and Bowie came into the room, and there had already been, major stars there, but I heard silence through the room as people figured out the silence came from further away all the way up to us. And it was like really one of those things, and I get to meet a lot of famous people, but I don't know if I've ever seen a more famous moment in my life than that.
Yeah, it must do your head in to be the person who causes that response in other people. I think, he was always ambivalent about fame. And that's in Shock and Awe, that's one of the things that I really am interested in is this hunger for fame that everyone has. But there's a lot of literature that shows you that fame is as dangerous as heroin. Sure. It's like, and he always wrote, Bowie always said, he actually said the worst thing that ever happened to me was was becoming famous. But it was one of, some of his greatest songs are written about that. Fame, his biggest American hit is this sort of dispatch from, the paranoia zone of fame.
Well, fame and money take away hunger too, as well. You know what I mean? Like you don't see a lot of people writing greater albums later in their career, but I really do feel like he stayed an artist. And I would say the same of Brian Ferry as well. I think Brian Ferry is still making interesting music.
Yeah, definitely. There's, I think there was a real sort of unrest in Bowie particularly, and also he set himself his burn, because once you've established that you're going to be different from album to album, then that becomes like, how long can you sustain that for? And I think in the late 80s and 90s, he did struggle a bit with reinventing himself. It became this sort of draining, self-imposed burden that he put on himself. But his run of greatness from from the early 70s to the early 80s is unparalleled in terms of changing all the time. There's loads of artists who've put out, great albums that are a little bit different from the previous one, but to actually do a different thing with each album is staggering, really. Yeah,
we look for, if there's even a slow growth, you're impressed. Let me just say this too about your book, Shock and Awe. I think there's few people left who are willing to write about music like this. In the 60s, there were a couple of folks, and they stayed around for, a long time, whether it was Grill Marcus but you can feel what you put in to this work.
Yeah, it was definitely, a labor of love, and it took about 3 years. And I believe it or not, I left out a lot of stuff. The cuttings on the cutting room floor, which I may put on the internet at some point just to feel like I didn't lose them completely. There's loads of great stories and things that aren't in it, but there's even more that are in it.
Well, that's the interesting fact about it, is you can't really. It's hard for us as we take pop music for granted, but we forget what an impact it has on every life. Even if it's something you don't like, it impacts your life, and it impacts the thing that the next artist does.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I was trying to reconstruct with it, sort of historically, was, now, today we can access music and all kinds of stimulation, instantly, on our phones or our tablets or whatever. And, but I tried to reconstruct what was like in a world where, you just had the music magazines, the weekly or monthly music magazines, and you had, an occasional TV appearance and, every so often a concert if you were lucky. If you lived somewhere that was not too far away from the touring circuit. So the intensity and the urgency of people's, connection to pop music was really something, and these people were like little bursts of, razzle dazzle and ideas as well.
Yeah. Well, in those days, I grew up outside of Philadelphia, so I'm in the suburbs, and a David Bowie fan for me for a while was being in the closet. This was music I listened to at home, but I never told anybody on the school bus because you could be in a fight for listening to this kind of music. The Stooges, I'd only seen in magazines, and even went out to buy it in the record store, couldn't find the record. Obviously, they weren't being played on the radio. So there was much more of a mysterious thing, but there was also something much more impactful that when you did get the album, you listen to it 80 times in a row before you put on any other music. Now, if I turn a kid on to some thing, he'll have listened to their entire catalog over the weekend. And someone told me, a kid said, okay, I listened to the Velvet Underground if you told me Friday. What else you got? I go, no. It's a lifetime. The Velvet Underground is a lifetime because it means something different to me now than it did when I was younger. So I think sometimes access takes away that focus, that concentration.
I think this, it's so easy now to listen to an artist's whole work in a row, and that's not really the best way to experience it, because if you listen to it in real time, there was long gaps and you sort of digested it, sunk into your life. You can't recreate that, then there is that temptation to just line up every Joni Mitchell album in a row and go through them. But I think, there's something about, as you say, the listening to 80 times. Those albums I remember I got and I didn't like them, and I spent my hard-earned money and I forced myself to listen to them over and again. And then it really reveals itself to you, the depth in it are revealed.
Yeah. And it's something else changes. I don't think that they listen to music together if you're a young kid. Like a lot of times I would listen to albums because my friend owned it. I didn't own it. So I had to go to his house, get him to put on the album. We would sit around, whether we're getting high or just sitting around after school, and listen to that album as if it were the way people would watch a movie.
Yeah. And you would pore over the album cover and if there were liner notes, you'd scour them and you just sort of look for all the clues and information around it. But I think when my daughter's 10, and I think she has an intense relationship with pop music. It's very much watching it as videos on her little handheld device, and she loves to dance to it, but only if someone's watching. It's a different. It's the idea of dancing in a crowd of people, in a club, as she hasn't grasped that yet. It's like dancing as a performance, because that's what she sees in all these videos.
Right. Also, I'd say this about kids is they know more music than we did. They know 60 years worth of music, where I wasn't thinking about music that was made 50 years before 1975. It would have had zero interest to me. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget in the Matahupa when I heard the Bowie song when he sings the lyrics, "My brother's back at home with his Beatles and the Stones," because my brother had turned me on to all that music, and this was the first time that I'm like, okay, this is for us. It's not for those guys. That thing was as dramatic to me as anything I'd ever heard.
Well, there was a concept at that time. I think Alice Cooper coined this concept. You call it like third generation rock. So the first generation is the Elvis, Little Richard, Buddy Holly generation. Then the second generation is the Stones, Beatles, Dylan, and all the young dudes was taken as this sort of anthem for the third generation. The people who were tired of their elder brother, elder sister's music, and they wanted something of their own. And that song was very cleverly designed to play into that. Here's something that's definitively definitively of the 70s, you know.
Right. It was literally a kill your idols song. Thanks so much for stopping by. I could sit around and listen to you talk about this stuff all the time.
Thank you so much.
Simon Reynolds' new book, Shock and Awe, Glam Rock and Its Legacy from the 70s to the 21st Century. It's available now in stores and online. Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time coming through.
Thanks.
Now, you're his friends. You bring them down. It's the Bennington Show. Man, that may be the greatest song of all time.
That's such a good song, and you're right. What a song to give away. What a song to say, here,
take it.
I don't need this one.
Take it, all of you. That's what...
and drink from it.
I think he also tried to give him Suffragist City. And they were like, no, we don't want that. Now, yo, his friends, you bring them down. That's the great Mott the Hoople. Just talking a little glam rock. That song crushes me to this day. Like the last thing where they're just singing just perfect and that riff. But I will tell you this. I don't, Bowie's recorded that a couple of times. I don't know if I've ever liked anything as much as I like that version.
That version? Yeah, it's perfect the way it is.
With the great Ian Hunter. I saw them before in a club. I think it was a theater, small theater in Philadelphia. The opening act was supposed to be Queen. It was going to be Queen and Mott the Hoople, and then they changed it. Queen wasn't going to be there. And it was REO Speedwagon and Mott the Hoople.
That's quite a difference.
Yeah, it's a real difference. This is
like
a different
a really
kind of night.
Weird switch.
Yeah. All right, we got to wrap this one up, huh, Chris?
Yeah, we do. We have to.
Out of all those glams, who are your favorites?
David Bowie.
Second favorite?
Mott the Hoople?
I'll give you your answer. Your answer is Roxy Music.
Okay, Roxy Music's my second favorite.
T-Rex is your third.
This would have Brian Ferry should have been James Bond. If this industry made any sense, and by the industry I'm talking about the business, if they made any sense at all, they would have said, okay, I've got the new James Bond. He's debonair.
Mm-hmm.
He's sexy. Brian Ferry, Roxy Music.
It makes sense.
And then also, I think that T-Rex probably should have done the TV show Sanford and Son. We got to get going. Hey, I'm going to give you this. Would you guys have considered Elton a glam possibility? I mean, he was doing the costumes.
Yes. He had all the theatrics of a glam.
Right. Now, do you know who included him in the glam scene? No one.
Why?
They never said Elton's glam. They'll throw it over and say the New York Dolls were glam, which were American. Sure. They will say even the trashy, ugly look of Alice Cooper, and I'm talking about that entire drunken band, they called them glitter or glam.
Is it because Elton was not punk enough in his vibe? Because glam needs punk.
Can I tell you what I think it was more than anything? And I hate to say it. I believe they thought he was too hairy and fat.
Oh, no!
I do.
That's not fair.
I think the glam guys were mean girls. And mean girls never like hairy and fat girls.
You're not heroin chic enough for us.
You look like you just ate.
I could never.
I mean, look at him there. He was balding. He was very hairy.
Dude, here's the thing, though. If you go through, and maybe this is a long chat for another day when we don't have to wrap this show up, but the amount of people that didn't need to be attractive to hit stardom back then is really strange.
Oh, the bad teeth alone. I mean Bowie's teeth were frightening. But we'll come back and talk about this. But I'll say this. When we do GPS in the glam days, we're putting Elton in there.
He's in.
Minnie and the Jets. Because he was at least, he brushed up against it.
Yeah.
All right. We've gone too far, folks. But the reason why we do it, love.
Love, Kelly.
Love for you, the fucking listener, who we adore. I don't think we got anything to promote for tomorrow, right?
No.
No, I think we are clean. Clean
I say
teens.
this, if you're going to
I don't
look
know
at
if that's what you would call it.
the prime years for Glam, in my opinion, ran from 72 to 74, with the peak year being 1973. So we hope that you enjoyed today's show. And again, we'll see you all again in
1974.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evening is over. We hope you all enjoyed yourselves, and we'll see you all again in 1974. Good evening!